Friends, if you're looking for real old school laughs, you're in for a treat because we've got them right here. Flip City Magazine. Remember Mad Magazine? Then it went woke? Well, don't worry. Flip City has no chance of going woke. That's right. 4 times a year, you'll get an actual printed magazine full of jokes, stories, comics, and more, all about today's pop culture, entertainment, and woke politics. Flip City takes terrible entertainment trends we love to hate with hilarious parodies of Lord of the Rings, Stranger Things, The Walking Dead, Star Trek, Hunters, and more. Trust me when I say there is nothing else like Flip City on the market. So subscribe today. It will be delivered in print, or you can even get it digitally if you're one of those wacky Zoomers. Either way, follow our link and sign up today, and if you put in midnight, you get an extra 10% off. Check out Flip City Magazine today. Greetings, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, whatever it is, where you is. Welcome to Midnight's Edge in the morning. I'm Tom Connors. We have a special guest with us today, but first I have to introduce my boss man, Andre. How you doing?
Greetings. I'm doing excellent, especially when we are in such a celebrate company. Yeah, going to be a good stream.
Indeed. We have Michael Davis with us today. How are you doing, good sir?
I'm doing great.
Glad to have you here. We also have, of course, Culture Casino. How you doing?
Good morning, everybody. I'm doing fine. I'm glad to be here, and I'm glad to hear from our esteemed guest today. Very excited about that.
Indeed. We also have Paul Chato with us. How you doing?
Fine. I'm just lightly esteemed.
Finally got my TV guide video. It's only been a year.
I'm like a brisket. I'm just lightly steamed. Montreal smoked meat, nicely sliced. So.
I mean,
now you're just making me hungry.
Technically, you're just Canadian bacon at this point, but that's fine.
Yes.
I'm just steaming.
There you go.
And then we also have with us, of course, the other Canadian script doctor. How you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm the back bacon,
There you go.
That's how it works up here.
Thaddeus.
Happy to be here to sizzle with you all today.
Quite the back bacon he's got, too.
Indeed. Well, we have a few topics to get to, but we also have a guest with us, as we said. And before we get too deep into the show, I want to remind you that he has a campaign going on right now, and we will be sharing the link throughout the show. Check it out, and we'll talk a little bit more about
in
that
the description. That's where
Yeah.
you find the link.
And we'll talk about that in a little bit. But Andre, where do we want to kick things off today?
Well, there's been a lot of news. We have Amazon, which proves that Fallout was really just a fluke. They're going back to formula with both the Rings of Power Season 2 and Phoebe Waller-Bridge's Tomb Raider.
Yep.
That's going to be fun. We have now some commentary on the backlash to Doctor Who, so that's also fun. But before we get into any of those things, let's hear a little bit more about Michael Davis, who is, of course, an industry veteran, been working on some really, really cool stuff, all of our favorite movies. Tommy's worked on one of your favorites. He's worked on one of my favorites. But let's hear from the man himself. Michael, tell us about yourself and your start in the industry and what you do.
Well, thanks for having me on. I started out as a storyboard artist, and as Tom said, I worked on Ninja Turtles 2, The Secret of the Ooze, and I had also worked on Pee-wee's Playhouse, and it was really great. But I always wanted to write and direct, and I thought storyboarding would be a way to sort of hone my skills, but also get noticed that I was good at visualizing. But basically what I did is while I was storyboarding, I was writing scripts because I thought writing scripts was the best way to get the chance to direct. And so I ended up doing some stuff for Charlie Band. I ended up directing my first feature was for his children's label, which is called Beanstalk, which is really funny because the first film I ever made was an animated Jack and the Beanstalk. So it kind of has a symmetry there. And then, but making a cheapo Charlie Band movie didn't really move my career along. And so I ended up financing my own movie, which is called 8 Days a Week, which was Kerry Russell's first movie. It won the Audience Award at Slam Dance. Roger Ebert actually pissed off the Sundance people because he skipped one of their Sundance screenings to come to my Slam Dance screening. And that helped my career. But again, doing a dinky indie film kind of makes you stuck. And I did a bunch of indie films, which I loved. I did this thing called 100 Girls, 100 Women. And then I did a horror film called Monster Man. And during that time, I wrote this script, Shoot 'em Up. And when I was about to go out with Shoot 'em Up, that's when Columbine High happened. And so I had to shelve it for several years. And eventually I gave Shoot 'em Up to Don Murphy from Transformers, and he championed it at New Line. And then I got to make Shoot 'em Up, which was a blast, and it was fun, and Clive was awesome, and it was definitely my voice. But the movie didn't perform, and I was telling the guys that if your movie doesn't perform, you kind of end up in director's jail. But I just love making stories, so then I had a friend who paid me to animate a movie. So I recently finished a movie that I hand animated all by myself. It's called Nixed. And it's a alternative reality about Nixon solving the JFK assassination. Went to Annecy, and since then I've taught myself CGI animation. And what I'm going to talk to you guys later is my project in CGI, which is a spiritual follow-up to Shoot 'em Up. It's called Blast 'em Up. It's like Shoot 'em Up, but it's with blasters, and it's in the future, and it's super awesome and super fun.
Well, so was Shoot 'em Up. I remember seeing that in 07, and we were in a packed theater, oddly enough, and the whole theater was loving it because it was just so out there, ridiculous and fun and hyperbolic. And you got great performances out of Clive Owen and Paul Giamatti with their like Battle of the Wit stuff, and the whole breaking of the finger. I mean, it was just a really fun movie. The fact that not a lot of people got it says volumes of modern audiences at that time. But I thought it was just fantastic. Of a fun film. So
well,
I'm glad you're doing a spiritual sequel.
The great thing about people when they get the movies, and a lot of people don't, is the people that get it really get it, and they're really passionate, and they're like me. So it's actually better sometimes when you have people that just love it and the rest of people just don't get it, because then you know that you're in sync and you made something that really stood out from the pack, and I think that's really cool. So thank you.
No, thank you. It was a fun night, and I got it on DVD. So,
yeah, I want to hear a little bit more about the movie I mentioned, which was my favorite, and I think it's special because video games are having a resurgence right now. We are in the middle of Gamergate 2.0, which is slightly different from the first one with video games proper, but also. Video games have been blowing up both on TV and in streaming in recent times. Like last year, Super Mario, the animated movie, actually beat out Marvel and DC. This is the first year a video game movie has beaten out a comic book movie, and it's not going to be the last. Whereas Fallout is the biggest thing that Amazon has yet to release. They are reluctant to admit it, but it beat the shit out of the Rings of Power in viewership ratings and everything. But you are actually one of the pioneers, because the very first video game movie ever made was the Super Mario Brothers movie. But the second one is one you worked on. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, yeah, I appreciate it. It's so funny when you tell these stories that, oh, you're a pioneer. But, the fact of the matter is that I was a struggling screenwriter, and I was partnered with Peter Gould, who's gone on to do Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. And we're still great friends. I celebrate my birthday with him, and he invites me. We do a birthday dinner. He's super busy. But we had such a great time together as writing partners. And we hadn't done anything. We knew each other from USC Film School, and it was a job that we went up for. We had written a spec script called The Censor, which is about this guy whose all 5 senses become incredibly heightened, and we had it was a big action thing. He could hear like conversations a block away. He could feel body heat through walls, so he could see if an ambush was coming. It also caused problems because he had to have sex with multiple condoms because he was so sensitive. Anyway, that script didn't get picked up, but it got us. It was a good showpiece. They got hired. I think it was Ash Shaw. I can't remember the company. And Don Murphy was tangentially involved with Double Dragons. He had the rights, and we got hired to rewrite the script that had existed. And the funny story, I'm jumping all around, but when you see the movie, they brought in another writer to add more humor to it. And there's some jokes in there that are just forced, like, this sitcom, this soap opera, General Hospital. Well, one of the actors says to the bad guy, villainous, generally I put people in the hospital, as a joke towards. Anyway, Peter and I thought these jokes sucked. Well, that writer ended up going on to create That 70s Show. So, there you go. And so Double Dragon, we found out later that it was beloved. They came out with a new special edition, but Peter and I always thought that, hey, this is not the best showpiece of our talents. But we came in to rewrite an existing script. We had a lot of fun, but we knew that they were going to have trouble when the movie set in a post-apocalyptic, after a big earthquake, LA, but the producers chose to film it in Cleveland, which is just like, and the only reason they did it is the big producer, Alan Schechter, was from Cleveland, and he wanted to be the hometown boy, does good coming home, but it made it really hard to find a location, set dressing, and so there was just a colossal amount of, we thought, bad decisions. But the movie, I guess the kids watched on TNT, and it became their favorite because they watched it, and it was a movie from their childhood. So now everybody loves it. But Peter and I, had to discover that this movie that we thought wasn't so hot actually is beloved. So, I mean, I could go on, but it was that's sort of it was a writing assignment for us that turned into something. I do have to say, it's funny, as much as I love Don Murphy, we knew Don from USC Film School. But when we went to the premiere of Double Dragon, we see Don walking by us, and Don looks at Peter and I and goes, "What are you guys doing here?" I said, "Don, we did the rewrite." Because he just got the rights, but he had nothing to do with it. But he was so busy, he didn't even know that we were aboard, So it just goes to show you, the levels of, how involved people are. And I know you're going to talk about the head of Amazon Studios and how they put their fingerprints on stuff. And sometimes people are all over it, and other times they really step back. And so I think they only strategically put their fingerprints on it if they really think they're going to garnish some positive attention. And that's the wrong way to make stories and be a help to a project. But I'm glad people loved, Double Dragon. And it was weird for me because 2 months ago, they did a special edition reissue of my film Monster Man, which again was a super low budget, horror film about a monster who drives a monster truck. And again, I had, for this company, Dream Entertainment, they were one of these companies that you take a project and a script and a poster and you pre-sell it overseas. And if they get enough pre-sales, they're going to make the movie. Well, these guys had pre-sold the title Monster Man, which I thought was cheesy. And they thought that they would make some kind of like X-Men ripoff or whatever. Well, then when that version fell through and the script sucked, they said, "Michael, why don't you do a horror film? Our only caveat is it has to match the title we pre-sold, Monster Man." and I was really, I made 3 movies with these guys, and I kind of felt very exploited. They didn't pay me very much. And even on the set of Monster Man, I asked them, hey, where are the residuals for my past 2 movies? I'm not getting my Writers Guild royalties. And the producer says, well, Michael, we actually are supposed to pay you the royalties, but we kind of play this game saying it's the original financer that should pay. And so we do this dance where we delay paying as long as possible. So that's what's going on. I'm like, this is the first day I'm directing my 3rd movie for you. How are you inspiring me to work hard for you when you are admitting to me that you are kind of scamming and not paying my Writers Guild? And so that was it. They had actually got for me to do that movie, they got a 1.5-year option on Shoot 'em Up. And I'm like, I got to get this project away from them. And when I finally took it away from them, they were all very, very upset. They didn't understand. And I said, guys, every time I make a movie for you, you pay me this, but my nut is like $40,000 more. And I go into credit card debt just to make a movie for you. If you guys paid me more, maybe I'd be happier. Or if you just paid my royalties, I'd be happier. I don't know where that went, but I'm trying to plug the reissue of Monster Man, which
I think you know where that went?
Yes.
It reminds me to never hire you as my business agent.
Yeah, I'm the worst. But here's the thing. Like, what is that? The guy that wrote the guy who says if you put in the 10,000 hours, you become a genius.
Malcolm Gladwell.
Malcolm Gladwell. Now, this is my thought: is that the writers, directors, the artists, they put all their 10,000 hours into being good at their art. Well, if you're going to be a business person or a producer or a head of the studio exec, you put 10,000 hours into being good with the business, with money, with squeezing people. And so they're geniuses at sort of, destroying or, giving you bad deals, because that's where their genius lies. They put their 10,000 hours into squeezing people.
They're not your friend.
They're not your friend. So yeah, do not have me do the business for you.
I'm just listening to you because rule number 1: never put your own money into anything,
except 8 days a week, because I tripled my money on that one.
Oh, okay, there I'm wrong.
But you are absolutely right.
Yeah,
but
indeed.
I probably will put some of my own money into Blast 'em Up. I'm just trying to get a head start by doing a Kickstarter to get a little bit of help, and we'll talk about that in a bit.
Yeah, we will. But first, let's get into the news, and one of the bigger ones, which actually pertains to video game adaptations as it is today. Amazon, they just came hot of Fallout, which was a big hit for them, and evidently they think that they might have another hit on their hands by giving Tomb Raider to Phoebe Waller-Bridge.
Woo! I see hit. I smell a hit.
Paul, let's begin with you. Given Phoebe Waller-Bridge's recent track record, even for things that she hasn't necessarily written, but just her on-screen presence, like how popular she is with viewers, do you think that this has hit written all over it?
Well, no. She's an interesting person. Number one, the Americans have a fascination with Brits, just in general. They speak in a way that they think Brits are smart, but they're not.
Yes, her accent hires her incompetence. However, she's also been in a committed relationship with what's his name, Martin McDonough, and he did In Bruges and a whole bunch of really well-received films in the industry. And basically, if you say no to Phoebe Waller-Bridge, you're kind of saying no to him. And you don't really want to make an enemy of him, even though he doesn't really have anything announced yet. People still take his meetings. He still gets to pitch. They really like him. So you don't want to anger his girlfriend.
Well, she's also been attached to this show for a while. This isn't really new.
Well, she's been dating him for like a decade. So
yeah, I'm talking about him. I'm talking about this show.
No, Paul's right. This was something that was announced a while ago. But the funny part about this is, if we weren't living in upside down, inside out world, after Indiana Jones, this would have been shelved, or she would have been shit canned, because they would have looked at that and goes, well, she just did something that's similar to this and it bombed. Not only did it bomb, they bombed one of the biggest franchises of all time. Get rid of this woman. And that script's probably right.
They just don't want to anger his boyfriend or its boyfriend, whatever it is.
And that
Can
show
can we add one thing to that
it was-
real quick?
was
Because you said
horrible.
it's one of the biggest flops of all time, actually, was
That's true.
the most recent Indiana Jones. So all of those, but also one of the greatest flops of all time.
But you know,
But that thing
I think she's a terrible choice for Tomb Raider and Indiana Jones. But I think I would have a different take that they don't want to upset her boyfriend, because her boyfriend is still kind of an indie smart filmmaker, and it's not like he's like a Jim Cameron or a Spielberg that he's involved. And so he's probably still has an uphill battle. He still probably pitches, you know, more indie, more smart stuff. But the thing that I get frustrated by her is that she doesn't understand her identity. She is really good with smart, funny, sort of reality-based dramedies, right? And she's got a great persona on screen. And the frustrating thing to me is people like me, I've done indie films. I did one studio movie, but people think that filmmakers are totally in control of their destiny and what they get to make and what they don't get to make. And most people are struggling, but she has this cachet that she got these two big things, and she's basically going for the money, right? But this is not what she's good at. And I don't know why her boyfriend is saying, look, you already have a ton of money from all this other stuff. You could retire. You don't need to do these big franchises. Why don't you go back to what you are good at, what people love from you, and what you love to do? Why are you doing these things that are big studio things? That's not your voice. She's basically betraying the artist in her, I think, for the big paycheck. And it's really disappointing. And so I think it's a money grab for her.
Well, I mean, with any writer, if you get an
money
opportunity,
grab,
you kind of want to
technically.
take it, right? So, like, because you never know what the next
yeah,
job
I
will be.
mean,
One at a time, one at a time, one at a time. We need to understand half of what y'all just said.
Script, let's begin with you.
Well, I mean, yes, in Hollywood, work is kind of few and far between, especially if you're a writer doing things. So from her perspective, she's just taking any opportunity she can just to either build up some cash so that she has something in the event that she'll never work again in the future, which can happen to some of either the best and even occasionally the worst out there in the talent sphere. So I don't begrudge her for seizing the opportunities, but I do think it's like you do have to have a little bit of artist integrity. You also have to have a little bit of like understanding your own weight class, and certain genres are sometimes outside of the scope of the weight class. And I would say Phoebe Waller-Bridge should go back to the self-deprecating, you know, serialized things of that nature, because that Fleabag show, even though I wasn't a huge fan of it, a lot of people really, really liked it and it tracked. And that's kind of what got her noticed. Kind of like how Diablo Cody got noticed with Juno, like over 10, 15 years ago. And then people kind of just gravitate towards her. But now she, after exploiting that popularity, is now back onto indie stuff and doing something a bit more appropriate to her voice.
That's a good point.
Yeah,
I think she's out of her comfort zone and bra size if it comes to Tomb Raider.
Yeah. I would like to add in, I don't think, well, she may be doing a cash grab too, but I think it's more of prestige grab, because this way she gets to be in the A-list. She gets to be in all of the best cocktail parties. She gets to hang out with all of the good people in all of their private islands and stuff like that, because by taking on projects like this, she's able to elevate herself to the absolute elite of the entertainment industry. And with that comes not just money, but also power, personal power. And I think that may, for her point of view, may be a much bigger reason to take on a project like this, more so than that she thinks that she's the right fit for something like Tomb Raider.
Well, I mean, except Tomb Raider is, you know, no bigger than Conan, or I mean, it's a B character.
It's a high profile Amazon series. That's where the prestige comes from, not the property itself. I mean, in terms of like prestige and winning favor with the artsy-fartsy crowd at the Royal Shakespearean Academy or something, that's not going to happen. But still, this is where the masses see. This is where you get invited to all of the posh parties and stuff like that.
Well, you know, I think you are right about that, because I later commented that, with Shoot 'em Up, I cast Clive Owen, lives in England, Monica Bellucci all over Europe, and Paul Giamatti, who lives in New York, and I live in LA. If I had cast an LA actor, I could have become friends with him or her, and then I would be invited to the parties, and then not just for the fun of going to the parties, but I might befriend his other or her actor friends, right? And if I were friends with them, then maybe I could cast them and help get my other movies made. I could really do a power networking by being in the club. And I later on said, if I was more Machiavellian, I would have cast some of these actors that I thought would help me in the future. But instead, I just cast them for what I thought would be best for the movies. And you're right, she's probably trying to build up her Rolodex so that she just knows everybody, and then she can be a bigger power player, and that's
since Fleabag, she's done basically nothing. If you look at her list of stuff, I mean, certainly she hasn't done, let's say Fleabag is of a kind. I mean, although she is credited with helping to write Indiana Jones and the Dial of Dysentery.
And the most recent James Bond movie. What she has done, this is exactly what Michael was saying and what I'm thinking too. She has Kathleen Kennedy in her Rolodex, and she has made herself good friends with Kathleen Kennedy to the point that she started out as a droid in Rogue One to being basically the next Indiana Jones, which is mostly because of her relation with Kathleen Kennedy. And I also believe
she was the gay robot in Solo, not Rogue One, but yeah.
Solo, yes. Sorry about that. Yes, Solo. Does it matter? I mean, they all blend together anyway. But anyway, at least they do for me. But also, and I do believe that I wouldn't be surprised if it's through Kathleen Kennedy and through her cocktail parties that she was able to gratiate herself with Jennifer Salke, the head of Amazon.
It's gotta be, because I wouldn't have made Shoot 'em Up if I hadn't gone to film school with Don Murphy. That was just luck. I mean, the hundreds of thousands of dollars I spent to go to grad school paid off because it's all about the context. I mean, it's even like they talk about these Ivy League schools. They've done studies. You actually get a better education at non-Ivy League schools.
But not the connections.
Well, yeah. And at Ivy Leagues, you're getting the TA teaching you, not the professor. But the benefit is, yes, the contacts. And so, yes, all about networking.
Yeah. So I think that's how she got it. But now that she has gotten it, and then we can, of course, argue about the merits of the cocktail parties and stuff. But culture, given that she is now the one who's essentially the showrunner for Tomb Raider, how excited are you for the possibilities that come with this?
Well, I mean, we've heard this for quite some time, as you mentioned earlier, and now that it's officially been confirmed and then blasted across the interwebs, look, my bar was already set very low for my expectations here. I can't imagine that it could go much lower. Her performance outside of her one-man show, thing that she did with Fleabag. That was really the only thing I ever enjoyed her in. And, upon reflection, it gets, it's not exactly groundbreaking in any way. I think she gets far too much credit for being clever and have the ability to add the British sarcasm that we seem to either appreciate or gets completely lost on Americans. And I'm afraid that she's going to insert some of that snarkiness into this series, which will be unappreciated because while there is a bit of humor in the previous Tomb Raider films and in the games, it certainly isn't played the way that this lady will play it up. I have, again, the lowest possible expectations for this. I will watch 3 episodes and I will let you know what I think at that point. I will have an educated opinion and I will, tell you that, I have no love for this already. The other problem is it's coming from Amazon, and that's run by Jennifer Salke, who is incredibly misandrous and really a neo-Marxist, for lack of a better way of saying things. So at least their values align. So Salke and Phoebe Waller-Bridge, well, they're going to deliver something that I would say would be rather underwhelming and offensive to many people who appreciated the previous offerings in this franchise.
I'm just thinking now a little bit about the behind the scenes on this. I think that what probably happened is like Tomb Raider is basically a female Indiana Jones.
Exactly.
So when she got to do Indiana Jones, Amazon probably years ago said, we have to get her for Tomb Raider. And they signed her and they gave her a big advance. This is before the new Indiana Jones movie came out, right? And so they now have this obligation, and they probably would have announced it a week or two out after Indiana Jones came out if it was a hit, right? And they go, hey, we got the creator, the writer, the new voice of Indiana Jones to do Tomb Raider. But because it bombed and she was criticized, they probably kept it under wraps for several years, waiting for a time where they thought it would be safe to roll her out again. And it's probably a backlash, but not as bad as if they had released it. So I bet you this deal with her has been on the books for 2 or 3 years.
Well, if memory serves, actually, Michael, like I think you're partially right there from because they announced it. Yeah, they announced it as she was making the film still, like, because, yeah, as Paul said, we've known about this for a while.
Yeah.
This just makes it official, like they greenlit it or something like that. I think before it was just they were in talks or whatever. But I think you're right, too. I think this is something they've been sitting on for a while. And again,
they probably want to get rid of her, but they probably paid her a couple $1 million, and they can't, it's like, a player in the NBA, they're under contract, and they got to pay them unless they trade them, and they can't trade her.
Possibly, but Amazon is also this company that we know that just can't help but do this to themselves. So I'm pretty sure this was by design. And I can almost picture what we're going to get out of this because they've done nothing but dumb down Lara Croft for the last few years anyway, as far as her appearance. And I mean, her two biggest assets.
She's not an A-list character. Who cares?
I don't know about that. I would argue she's up there in the top. If you're talking about top 10 most recognizable video game characters, she'd be in that top 10.
Yeah,
but her two biggest assets have been reduced to no end. And of course, I'm talking about her guns, but yeah.
Yes. But I think what you're saying is she's recognizable and she has this value as an IP.
Oh, yeah,
but
absolutely.
She's not a top 10 character artistically or of interest. It's not like Sherlock Holmes is way interesting. That's why they've made the most movies about him. And
maybe, but I bet you if you asked any kid right now if they know who Sherlock Holmes is, they'd be like, "Who?" If you asked them who Lara Croft is, they'd be like, "Oh yeah."
That's
the big difference we have here. Yeah, so that's what I'm getting at. Is
artistically that she's not actor bait.
She doesn't have a depth. She's up there with Mortal Kombat. What is it? She doesn't have a universe. What's that called?
A backstory, a universe of the world building is
the
terrible.
World building. Her world building is just goes as far as Underwire.
I would say that's something that could be addressed but not by a writer like Phoebe Waller-Bridge. She has certainly shown no panache for that in the past.
No.
I mean, and judging from what she has done with Fleabag, and that was all right for what it is. Like, I'm in complete agreement with Script that is where her forte is. But now she's doing something very, very different. And there's absolutely nothing in Fleabag, nothing at all, that would be a good fit for Lara Croft in any way, shape, or form whatsoever. So this is like a pure prestige grab, and then she's obviously not even gonna try, as Cultured was saying earlier, and as I also pointed out in the video that I dropped earlier today, or that we dropped earlier today. This is very much so a production that Jennifer Salke is going to be very heavily involved with. She has publicly associated herself with the project already. This is one of those female-driven things that she is all about. And whenever there is something that is female-driven and Jennifer Salke gets her hands on it, that means it's going to be misandric and it's going to be girl bosses all the way. So I have absolutely no faith in this project. I'm honestly amazed that Jennifer Salke still has a job. Only goes to show that Jeff Bezos isn't paying too close attention to what's going on there.
And don't forget this chickie who also ruined Bond.
Yes.
Managed to kill him
too. That's too. She did that as well.
Luckily, no one cares about Tomb Raider. I mean, no, we're not going to be kvetching about losing
Yeah,
that.
people like
No,
it.
but what's
It's not beloved. Maybe as a
I-
gamer, you
I don't
like-
know. You guys are underselling this. Like they just
I
recently, like,
agree with Tom here. Yeah.
yeah,
Carry
you
on,
guys. There's going to be a lot of upset people over Lara Croft, and as I was trying to say before, they've already been upset with how they've been dumbing down the character the last 10 so years now. They've taken away everything that made her what she was. Her personality's been dumbed down. Her boobs have been dumbed down. Her guns have been dumbed down.
The
all
Crystal
these things.
Dynamics. No. The first 3 generations of the Crystal Dynamic games, apart from maybe the third, were fantastic games. The return of her, making her more human. Yeah, they reduced her boob size, but she was still sexy as heck. And traversing the world in a singlet, it can't get much better than that. It was pretty good. The games are excellent. It's this new 4th one where they've uglied her up. That's the one. If you're referring to that, yeah, that's now they've.
Yeah, and which game do you think they're going to find more inspiration from as they're
for
making
sure.
this?
They're going to the Bull Dyke version that they've.
The issue here is what this project in the right hands should have been compared to what it's going to be. I mean, just look at what Amazon does.
Yeah, the audience is saying it was intersectional cancer. Nope.
Yes.
Cope.
Yeah.
No. Yeah.
And this is something
You lost
that
the
I
audience
submit.
on that one, Paul.
No. If
that's
this
this
show
thing.
was like the first Crystal Dynamics release one, they didn't make it, but they released it. If it was the first one, the first Tomb Raider of the modern generation, it would make a great show.
That's what exactly. And that's the thing, that the potential here, if they had gone back to those original games and they had made a faithful representation of that and just got some really proper talented people who have the right sensibility for what this could be, a Tomb Raider series could be a smash hit. I mean, you wouldn't guess from the Fallout games that the Fallout series would be the kind of hit that it was, but it had the right people working on it. I think that Tomb Raider has all of the ingredients in place that it could have been a massive thing that would catch the imagination of the mass audience, but it's not going to be. Not with these people
potentially
working on
there
it.
was that, Leah Carrera. No, what's her name? Carrera. There was that.
Tia Carrera, is that
Tia
what you're talking
Carrera.
about?
There
The
was that
librarian or
easy
something?
series that she was in, which was basically Tomb Raider. But don't compare Fallout with Tomb Raider. Fallout has a massive world building. I think it's 120.
This is where I think you're underselling Tomb Raider. You
Oh,
got
no.
This game has been around forever.
It
You
has
have
no
2
world
movies
building.
Can I fit? Fuck it.
Sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, but I see what you're both saying, and you both have very good points here, because you are right that there is not this established world, but this established world, that is something that the built-in gaming audience needs. You just have the iconic imagery of Tomb Raider, and I think that imagery is prevalent enough that this could have been a massive hit with the mainstream.
I agree with
That's
that.
what Tom was saying as well.
I agree with that.
But just the iconography, even though you don't have the world building, but the general audience, the movie-going audience, they're not aware of that, but they are aware of the iconography surrounding it, and that's enough. That the Amazon series could have been something really.
Yeah, but I think the delineation really should be is, if you look at Fallout, the games were sophisticated enough that you would get a Jonathan Nolan interested. Jonathan Nolan wouldn't be interested in Tomb Raider because, except for the visuals that are very iconic, there's no there. It's very simplistic, and so they're really 2 very different properties. And I think that's what's going to be hard about making Tomb Raider a success, is that it's so simplistic, and I don't think it's going to work.
Yeah, no, it's certainly not here. But yeah, and for comparison, the first movie for 2001 did pretty decent back then. It had did 274 million worldwide. Yeah, so the
131
domestically. Imagery is
That's
there.
what I was saying. Like, because I had my video store when this movie came out. This movie, I couldn't keep it on the shelf.
Yeah, but that's a sign of a movie.
And I sold the poster before the movie came out.
Yeah.
Lara Croft was huge back then.
Yeah.
Then
And
they
I
did the
think
movie in 2000 and whatever it was, 18, and it did about 300 million worldwide.
Yeah.
But that's the more dumbed down version that I was trying to get to. But anyway.
So, but Paul and Tom and I agree with you both. But let's see what the audience is saying. We have a couple of super chats before we move on, because we have more stuff from Amazon and, of course, many other things as well. Jason Webster says for $5 Indiana Jones and the diaper of dysentery. Unfortunately, the shit stains can't be washed from that franchise's underwear. Thanks, Kathleen and Phoebe. She was part of that too. He also says for another $5, keep Phoebe Waller-Bridge well away from beloved action and science fiction franchises forever. Yeah, too bad Amazon didn't get that note. And Ryan says for €20, thank you so much. Tomb Raider, great. Another remake nobody asked for. There are hundreds of good original scripts collecting dust out there. Where's Hollywood's courage? Well, I think it's actually very courageous to invest so much money into something with Phoebe Waller-Bridge. That may not be the kind of courage you were referring to.
Yeah. Different type of risk mentality.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the other thing is like, what is she supposed to come up with this for this character? Because in Indiana Jones, there was like nothing that was Indiana Jonesy where they had to really solve it. There was like the water displacement bit, and that was it.
Yeah, what are the puzzles you mean? Yes.
Yeah, like nothing like that I seen in that movie constitutes going, okay, I can see why they got Phoebe working on this now.
So, but one of the challenges that it's got to look like Lara Croft. They have the Alicia Vikander version of Tomb Raider, which could have had Zendaya. It was like she's a Zendaya body clone.
I have forgotten that movie already. I can't remember a thing.
That's the one I said that actually made $300 million.
That one did?
Yeah.
The Alicia Vikander one made $300
million. It was a decent hit. Yes, it was.
It's a terrible movie.
It was that too. But it goes to show the strength of the iconography.
274 to be exact, but yeah.
Well, I stand to be corrected, but I don't need to see an ironing board jumping around rocks.
But she also came around because of like this era when the mandate was that no, this Lara Croft of the past is problematic. She came in that era.
Domestically, it did horribly.
Ironing board in the games as well. So also it was made from the wrong period of the games. So that's
see, domestically it didn't even make $60 million. So here it bombed in the US basically. But internationally it did very well. Because word of mouth, like you got, like Andre was just saying, this is in the height of wokeness, like where people were starting to avoid as much. And like they took one look at this and they're like, that's not Lara Croft.
No, that's not Lara.
Yeah, they're like, where's her tits? Like, what the fuck?
But I think you could talk about the wokeness, and it's not really her. The fact is, the movie was boring. There were no gigantic action set pieces. And I have to tell you, of all the Lara Croft movies, my favorite scene is in the first one where she's fighting the robot. There's tons of eye candy. And what it does is it's not just an Indiana Jones ripoff. There's a little science fiction here that they didn't have in Indiana Jones, and it was really great. And then I was disappointed.
Little 007 kind of thing going with it. Yeah.
But then I was disappointed that the robot wasn't a real villain. I hate it when it's a training sequences. Action scenes that are training sequences are a waste because there's no consequences. But then the rest of the movies never had anything fun like that, right? And the recent one, maybe she's not as sexy, as she could be. But the movie tried to be more grounded and more realistic, and therefore there was no set piece where you came out saying to your friend, "You got to see it. They did this thing. We're just running around in woods and streams," and it's like that's the problem. It's not just the wokeness. The problem is it was just flat. It was it was just boring, and that's got to factor into it.
Yeah, flat is indeed the word.
Yeah, I know.
In more ways than one. But like the first movie, you're right. Like it wasn't anything I'd write home about. It's not something I'd give like a 10 out of 10 or anything like that. But when I watched it, I remember going, yeah, it kind of feels like the video game. And Angelina Jolie is perfect in the role. And wasn't it who who was it who played
Noah
her dad? in that? I
Taylor
can't
is the
remember.
only character
John
that
Foyt played her dad. didn't
Yeah,
he?
and it had a pretty decent cast, and it was pretty well put together. The sequel, but
No,
yeah,
sequel was
And
horrible.
it had Rimmer from Red Dwarf as her manservant, which was also pretty
but as
fantastic.
somebody who wasn't even a big fan of the games, I thought the movie did all right, and it was popular with people. Like, and what I meant before was like, Lara has reached beyond the video game crowd, and that's where I think that the reaction of the series is coming from, because she was a strong female character prior to the woke dumb, and she's been destroyed by woke dumb. And that's kind of where it's come down to now, where people are just like, oh, and this is the worst person in the world you could have. Exactly. Was Ash, like
Yeah.
Ash Barney, Bonry
Ash
says
Bonry.
here with,
How does Phoebe keep failing upwards? Echoing the thoughts of Kelly Bright for $2. Phoebe Waller-Bridge is using the J.J. Abrams model of failing up. Well, it's more the networking thing, as we mentioned earlier here, probably by hanging out with the good crowd. And Jason Webster says for
Exactly
$5 Australian, the woke is wrong with Darth Insufferable in the Captain Kennedy and her apprentice, Darth Script Mauler, Phoebe Waller.
That is awesome, Jason. That's great.
But she has a new apprentice now. The headman has come to the head of the tape.
And KL Thonic says for $5. On the bright side, Fleabag got the right style for Tomb Raider. A British brunette still, her acting sucks. Well, she's unlikely to be playing Lara Croft. I mean, that would be the self-insert of the ages, though. But I'm sure she's tempted, though, after she lost out on being the new Indiana Jones replacement.
don't
I
give
have
her
a-
ideas.
I have a theory about Fleabag. My wife and I watched it, and the first episode, and she was so unremittingly unlikable that we went, wow, we're not going to watch this. But I guarantee you that aspect of the character and the first show would have resonated really well in Hollywood. But I also guarantee you not a single person in Hollywood watched the rest of the series. But they'll talk about it endlessly.
That's not true. I actually, again, it's a taste thing. I loved the series.
Did you really?
Go on.
Oh.
I like it's because she has her own voice. I mean, I think Fleabag.
I agree with that. Yeah.
And I kind of think that she's kind of cute. I would like to have dated her, And I watched it. My wife watched it, but it's a taste thing because you and your wife said not for us. And so, and I agree with you. There's some people that just don't get it. And I have friends that I go, I can't like. I love this movie Amelie, and my best friend hates it. He hates Amelie, and it's one of my top 5 movies of all time. So sometimes things just don't connect. But the problem is that she has a unique and more independent film voice, and it's really hard to make that jump. And unless they're going to let her have some freedom to make quirky, right? And not homogenize, not vanilla, not smooth down. It's going to be bad, and she's the wrong person. I mean, there's the writers that do the really good Marvel movies, they get the right sort of, the voice is a Marvel voice, not their own voice. And they're really good at getting that. But she's not one of those people that can turn a franchise and make it entertaining. She's an indie person.
That's like
and she does. You are correct. I mean, she does have a what do you call it? The offbeat good looks. What do they call them? You guys, there's a fancy word for it. Exotic. She has an exotic look to her.
More like an art school chick, I think.
Yeah, exactly. So, but again, I mean, her, like I said, the only appealing thing she's ever done has been Fleabag, and by the time we got to season 2, I was out. So it's just, she is inherently unlikable. I agree with Paul on that.
She did write, what's the show that she wrote with that Sandra Oh starred in based on the books? With the woman in Sandra Oh meets that assassin. Remember? Come on, look it up.
Oh, it was Lady something, right?
No, it was great. It did 3 seasons. It was based on a series of novels. Remember, Sandra Oh starts working for MI6, right? And then
Killing Eve, right?
Killing Eve.
Yeah. Did you guys
You
like Killing Eve?
No.
Okay. Okay. Well, I liked it, but she had the books as a structure. But Killing Eve was already a little bit quirky just in the books as an IP. And so she was a good fit for that because she could be a little bit crazy or a little bit weird. And all the characters weren't, beautiful and glamorous and the Eve character was really fun in the casting. And there's some great scenes with the Eve killing her different marks. And she was a good fit. And so whoever was doing the hiring understands what she's good at in marrying the properties. But as I said, most of these people at top are so lazy, right, that they don't want to, do any of the work. I could go on and on about my experiences, but maybe later on I'll tell you about, the time I went up to pitch to direct Red 2, and the laziness in terms of the people's decision making. And so I think she has done some good work in the genre, but it was a good fit. It was like the casting of the writer was good casting, but it's not good casting for Indiana Jones or Tomb Raider.
Indeed. Rounding out the super chats here, Chaos Sonic says for $5, Tomb Raider is mostly popular thanks to Top Cow Comics and usually with porn. Yeah, if you say so.
Wow.
And Grimzilla says for $20. Thank you so much. The problem with modern writers and Tomb Raider is her whole story is loving history, procuring historical and mythological artifacts from museums, all while being sexy as hell. All are things the modern writer hates. I was like thinking, but this sounds fantastic, all of it, doesn't it? But not to a certain breed of writers and producers. And Tomac says for $20. So if Lara Croft is not in the top 10 video game characters, what would your guys' lists be then?
Well, I actually agree that she's, as an iconic character, she is a top 10 video game character. But as a character that's intriguing to write about and having a more dimensional character, her richness as a character is not a top 10, but she is top 10 in recognizability.
Yeah. Yes, her richness is in her figure, not her character.
Yeah. And I would absolutely put her in the top 10. And of course, I don't have the full top 10 prepped in my mind right now. But being a retro gamer, of course, it's going to be, in my end, it's going to be Super Mario and Bowser and Peach and Sonic and Tails and
if you want a character with a richer backstory, you get 2B from Nier Automata.
I haven't even played that one.
I don't even know what that is.
Yeah, I don't know.
I have that game. Yeah.
She has a far richer background, and the story is quite good, which was actually stolen by Stellar.
Of course it was.
But I don't mind. It's they stole the game from Nier Automata. So there's people with other IP, but I mean I agree with the general consensus. People know who Lara Croft is.
Yeah,
there's just
and Grimzilla says for $5, give Tomb Raider to a Japanese anime studio, and they would make her the #1 video game lady in the world again. That depends on who they're working under, but I don't disagree with the sentiment. And Embrace the Apocalypse says for 35 South African rands, can we get Monica Bellucci and her marvelous chest as Lara, bringing it back to shoot them up? That would be something if it was made maybe a few years ago. But yeah,
Monica Bellucci in the film is tremendous. So yeah,
dude,
good
that
casting.
love scene in Shootout was hysterical. I loved it.
That was so much fun, and I think it's pretty funny. What is that movie? Drive Angry ripped the scene off exactly with Nick Cage making. I can't believe that it was exactly the same. But that was the one time when I was directing the movie where I had to stop and stand and say, I can't believe this is happening. I can't believe I'm actually here making this scene with these great actors. And it's such a ridiculous scene. It was definitely a highlight of my career, the sex scene gunfight.
But before we move on to that, we have a couple of more things to cover. Yesterday, we not only learned that Amazon are intent to ruin Tomb Raider, we also got a reminder that they're in the process of ruining Lord of the Rings with the new trailer drop for Rings of Power Season 2. Now, Mr. Chato, how excited are you for that?
Well, no, not at all. I mean, we know that it's a gigantic mess. I am interested in the same way that I like slowing down for car crashes on the highway.
Yeah.
Yeah, like to me, the most interesting thing about it is the backlash it's getting and how it was ratioed to high oblivion. Script, do you think that anyone were surprised by the negative reaction within Amazon? Because I only saw a negative reaction. I don't see anyone even remotely excited for more Rings of Power, and yet they're locked in for 5 seasons. What do you think the reaction is to the audience reaction within the hallowed halls of Amazon?
I think the people that are writing the show and making the show are very, very happy because they're going to be paid for another 3 more seasons. As for the rest of Amazon, it's not really it's a drop in the bucket based on the amount of revenue they bring in. So they probably don't care as obviously they would love it to be a hit, but I don't think they care enough right now. Amazon and Apple have the same problem. They make so much money on other things that they actually don't care whether or not the quality of the product they're producing for film and television is actually any great. It's a superficial line item to them to just kind of generate another aspect of revenue.
Yeah, it's just good for their branding. I would be curious to see how big an uptick there is in the novels and merchandise of Lord of the Rings when they come out with a new series, whether or not that balances it out. But it could be a total flop, and it's just like it's not going to affect them at all.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I have to tell you, I knew it was the first 5 minutes of the episode 1, and maybe you can explain this to me. I go nuts because there's things that are just so obvious. You got Lord of the Rings, you got orcs, wizards, magic, dwarves, and you got sword and sorcery, right? And you got horses and giant battles, right? And that's like a playground, a toy set, a sandbox of fun for an action, exciting genre piece. And then they start out with the little kids, playing, and the girl gets her little boat thrown into the stream, and then you follow the boat down the stream, and now we're 3 minutes in, and I'm like, where is the Lord of the Ring husband? And then somebody comes in and gives a very on the nose speech about what she should become, and I'm like, who in the world opens this script and saying, this is a major franchise we're going to spend billions on and we're going to watch 10 episodes of it? And they start out with these little kids and she's getting bullied and it's by a stream and it's just like grass and a little stream and no epic quality. Who says this is the way that we start a Lord of the Rings? It's like these people don't want to embrace it. They should do like a James Bond movie and open it up with their action set pieces saying, this is why we love Lord of the Rings.
But Michael, that's not a slow burn. You don't understand. It's got to be about the slow burn. All the pretentious people that think they know how to write are all about the slow burn. It doesn't matter if it's hot or not. It's a slow burn. That's what they want to do.
Well, the problem with the first season is that these writers have no capability or understanding of how to write multiple characters at the same time and then have them go on their different adventures.
Yeah, but even still, even if I understand it's about the slow burn, it's like the worst slow burn. You gotta at least get people like warmed up. Like, this is why I love it. Even in the worst bad genre movie, they give you a little bit of something. This was like, and also you should, as an executive, okay, I'm going to decide whether I'm going to greenlight this. It's Sunday morning. I got my coffee. I'm going to read my Lord of the Rings script, my Rings of Power script. And you can, when you're reading a script, you can tell whether or not you're intrigued. I bet you the person, kept putting down the script because it was so boring, but they were so committed and they thought the franchise had so much value, they couldn't say to themselves, this is a do-over. And they know, deep in their hearts, they know it's bad, but there's so much momentum that you can't say, stop, let's get this right. It's
Well, and your boss
it's maddening. Who
and your
would
boss
say?
has put a ton of cash in, and you can't say no to him.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
I'll
and
tell you,
the current thumbs up, thumbs down ratio is 64K to 274K.
I'll tell
64
you,
down?
a much better produced
170.
trailer than the first one they did for season 1.
It's
That could very well
obliterated.
be, but still, as pointed out here, with that kind of ratio, that means that there are about 4.5 as many who downvotes as actually give it a like. That's one hell of a ratio right there. Then honestly, it doesn't matter what the trailer looks like,
Oh, sure.
because the audience are intent on disliking it.
It doesn't come in with good pedigree, that's for sure.
No. It doesn't. My big question is, because now you have a bunch of other competing Lord of the Rings projects. Because remember, just like Star Trek, here you have 2 alternate Lord of the Rings. You have the Amazon license, and then you have the original Lord of the Rings, which is part of the Peter Jackson canon. And that continues now, both with the animated Lord of the Rohirrim, plus with the upcoming Gollum movie, and who knows what else is on the cards after that. My question, though, is audience confusion, because we know the difference that there are 2 separate Lord of the Rings. And the hardcore fans will also know that there are 2 separate Lord of the Rings. But the general audience don't know that. So how many will be confused and tune out of the Peter Jackson Lord of the Rings because they don't know that it's not part of this shitty Rings of Power wannabe Lord of the Rings?
Yeah, I actually I think it's really interesting, because when Shoot 'Em Up came out, I go, you know what? This thing has more fun action scenes than most action movies. But if you like James Bond, if you like Bad Boys, you like all that stuff, come out and see it, right? And I think maybe the hardcore people that are so passionate about movies and know the differences maybe are a lot smaller. Maybe they're a lot louder than actually the general audience. And I think most of them, they probably might not know the difference between the Peter Jackson and the Amazon, but at the same time, they don't really care. They just kind of, it's like a wallpaper. It's nice, it's okay. It's not great, but I wasn't totally bored. And they make up the largest amount of the movie-going audiences. It's only us, which this is our, we live and breathe it. We love, talking about it and the differences, but maybe the geeks of the world is a smaller army than we think it is. I don't know.
This is another one like Tomb Raider where I see where Andre's coming from, and I'm sure there's going to be some general audience confusion.
Yeah.
But for the most part, the Lord of the Rings fans are so hardcore that they know the difference.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they knew the difference from the start, and that's why they did not tune in for this Amazon series. And even Amazon, there's a lot of, even the media is kind of asking about this, like, are people going to show up when only 33% of the audience finished the show?
Yeah.
So technically it did worse than the Snyder cut. So yeah.
Paul, I have to ask you, as a former network executive, if 70% of the audience is lost from the first to the last episode of a season, that can't be good, right? Have you seen ratings like that in your time?
No, I mean, yes. I mean, we've seen things like that. For instance, when back in the day when a schedule was really fun to put together, you'd be in a room with other people saying, okay, Kate and Allie has to go in between these 2 shows when it starts, and these are our 2 big hits, and we're going to sandwich them, and then then hopefully it takes off. But sometimes they'll take a show that was provided such largesse and it gets a pretty good rating, and then they put it on its own someplace else, and then it plummets to last place, and the producers are apoplectic. You've never seen the meetings where the lead actor and the producer, when they were getting let's say a 7.5 rating on a show, which was medium to okay back in the day. Now it's a 3.5. A 3.5 would be a hit. 7.5 is kind of on the edge of being canceled. How things have changed. I mean, that's the stuff that for no rhyme or reason, a good show can plummet to last place because they're in the wrong spot in the schedule on the wrong day against a powerhouse on the other network. So sometimes shows were treated like sacrificial lambs. They go, oh, we got a hit. Let's go after Golden Girls. We're going to crush them with this hit that we think we've got. And then they put it there and the show gets crushed and get canceled. So it's a cruel world.
Yeah. In this case, though,
they don't have that issue.
It streams exactly when the audience wants to see it, and it still lost 70% of the audience from the first to the last episodes. To me, that sounds like something you don't green light for season 2 unless some idiot called Jeff Bezos already ordered 5 seasons of it.
I have to give Netflix some credit in that they really do drop the hammer on shows. We lost 2 seasons of Witcher. That's down to 5 now because they went, that's it. We're done. This is a piece of trash.
Because there's no ancillary way of propping the shows up, Paul. And as I've pointed out before,
they're acting like business people.
Yeah, the sad reality of it is unless one of these shows brings in new eyeballs, it's not worth it for Netflix to continue them.
Well, not the way they measure things, right? Because that's how they look at it.
They're not getting advertising either. That's the other part of it. Sorry,
right. They are now.
Well, no, yes, they are. But the goal is to bring more eyeballs to their platform. And that's how they measure shows, not necessarily strictly on the ratings. They are measuring them on, did we bring in X number of people to watch season 2? I think by the time they get to season 5, they'll only be making 3 episodes per season, because this is it's unsustainable to do 8 episodes of a show that's costing you $250 million minimum per season.
Does anyone know what Rebel Moon got eyeball wise?
6 people watched that.
6 people, I think. Yeah. No, but this is a great example of like where Cobra Kai, right? Like Cobra Kai is not even an expensive show, but they drug their feet forever on the final season because they were evaluating, as we just said, is Cobra Kai worth it for them? Sure. Them moving over the first 2 seasons and premiering the 3rd season brought in a lot of eyeballs for Netflix. 4th season must have sustained well, but they were looking at it after that 5th season. Is it bringing in new eyeballs? Right. And that's the thing. The chances are by this point, 5-6 seasons deep into a show, which is a rarity for Netflix, the only people watching it are the people that were stuck with it since the start. You're not bringing in any new clientele because of it. Stranger Things is another great example of that. It's another one why they drag their ass on renewing that all the damn time. Because in their eyes, there's no incentive in it, like Culture said, unless you're bringing in a new 30% more of an audience, which that's not how TV shows work. And you know that historically from Paul. I mean, how many shows in history have gained momentum after their peak? Like they just don't. Like they hit a peak and then they fall off. And that's just the way it goes until the last season where you're lucky if you get that last episode to boost the ratings again because everybody else has checked out 5 years ago.
Oh, sure. The networks will squeeze a successful show like Seinfeld or the Cheers.
He's a great example. Yeah.
Yeah. Mary Tyler Moore's show from the 4th year on was horrible, really.
Right. But yeah, not a lot of these shows sustain that huge audience over 10 seasons or 6 seasons.
No, but the problem with the streamers have is that they don't have any consistency. Bless the network's heart. They could crank out 24 shows every single year, and September the new one would start. And so you had your TV guide, you picked the stuff. I know I'm going to be watching what on Thursday, and that was going to be what I'm going to do. Then, Stranger Things, you could wait 2 years before the next 6 episodes show up. And this is the absolute worst kind of TV that we could possibly get. Is what streamers are giving. In fact, I think what the streamers need to do is give their money to the networks, get them ramped up so they are doing 24 shows a year, and then buy the rerun rights for those shows. That is.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that, Paul,
they could do.
Because I think we're going to run into an issue here in the next few years. Let's go a decade out. All these shows they're producing now, none of them have But my point is none of them that have the amount of episodes
Right.
or even following anymore that would have normally sustained syndication back in the day, right?
Exactly.
So now let's jump 10 years ahead from where we are now. You're 100% right. When we get to the streaming stuff in 10 years from now, there's going to be a lack of new content because they don't have all the Seinfelds and the Cheers and the Friends and the stuff that they had going into Netflix that made it popular to begin with. See, and that's what I was saying the other day too. I don't remember if it was on here or Mr. H's channel, but that's the problem the studios didn't foresee, was that the streaming part of it should have been the end of the line, and that's the way they should have looked at it, instead of putting it into the front of the line as Hollywood normally does, putting the cart before the horse.
Yeah, and then you did say that on the HCast yesterday.
Yeah.
And you're 100% right. I mean, it's just there is no win here other than cannibalization. So I mean, if you wanted to create chaos and fewer jobs, you did a great job.
Yeah,
There's not going to be any of these shows in 10 years from now for Netflix to buy for people to find and watch, like Mad Men and all that stuff. Yeah.
HBO, I thought, did an okay job. I mean, we're remembering Game of Thrones. That has got a good residual memory. Sopranos has a good residual memory. But
for how long?
No, and that's true, too.
That's
have
my
to
point.
keep making stuff. But Frasier, I'm not talking about the new Frasier, but I mean, we have fond memories, those of us who do remember.
Yeah,
have fond memories of Frasier, Cheers, Mary Tyler Moore. We're not having any of those really from
That's
any
my
of the
point.
streaming shows.
The newest thing you can point to is what? Big Bang Theory, that 70s show, stuff like that.
Suits is still number one on the streaming. Yeah.
And even shows like Grey's Anatomy have been around for 2 decades.
Yeah.
Right? Sorry.
Yeah.
To some extent. I just want to get this super chat done. The Wolfman Force says Ranks of Power Season 2 trailer drops. Meh. An hour later, House of Dragons Season 2 trailer drops.
True story.
I noticed this. Warner Brothers is just eating Amazon's lunch this last week. The first, the Rings of Power thing, they're like, okay, you're going to drop your Rings of Power thing. I guarantee that was timed, not just because for their
perfect.
They're like, we dropped this business and nobody gives a shit about your Rings of Power. And then after your Rings of Power, guess what we got here? We got a Game of Thrones trailer, bitch.
Yep. Like, it was 30 minutes after they dropped it. The House of the Dragon season 2 dropped, and it just
Zaslav is not fucking around right now. He's he's like, Jeff, I got a surprise for you, and guess what? I got another surprise.
Well, okay, I'm going to say that I'm not going to blame Jeff anymore. I'm going to blame Jassy, because he's the guy that technically is running Amazon now. So, I know, I understand. I mean, and Jeff definitely hasn't taken his toe out of that pool for sure. But he's like the Bob Iger of Amazon. He's not full, he didn't pull out at all. He's still there. He might even have an office with shower in it. Who knows? But yeah, it's fascinating. Anyway, I didn't mean to take us so far afield, but I just think it's I just think it's telling. And Amazon, I do feel like they're leaning in the wrong direction, because their metrics for measuring success is broken, and so are Disney's. I mean, their only measurement for success now is representation, because it certainly isn't ratings, because they are definitely not in pursuit of those.
And they also dropped the Dune Prophecy trailer today.
Yeah, I did. I saw that. Have any of you others had time to see the Dune Prophecy trailer?
I have been streaming since 7:40 a.m. this morning.
Just before we started.
So large prostate culture.
It is.
No, that's true. That's true.
But no, and that's the thing I found was funny, is, and I know some people are like concerned. They're like, well, how is Peter Jackson and those guys going to make a whole movie out of a whole sentence or a paragraph? I'm like, that's the point. You guys got to look at it from that perspective. It's like, Peter Jackson is basically saying, oh, that's cute. You made up some Lord of the Rings stuff that's around the other stuff out of a few sentences somewhere. Look what I can do. That's what he's doing. He's basically saying, here, hold my beer. I'm going to show you how it's done, kids. And he's going to have Andy Serkis come in and play Gollum for a 22-hour movie or whatever. We're going to just have fun with that. Is it going to be any good? Probably not. But guess what? It's still going to be 10 times better than anything Amazon could shit out. That's the thing it's going to be. And then that's just going to be buying them time till whatever Peter announces what he's doing. Because I guarantee you there's going to be another. They said there's 2 projects. So I'm willing to put money on he's directing the next thing. And it's going to be either an Aragorn story or something to do with the Silmarillion. How much you want to bet?
I'm not taking that bet because
Nobody
I
wants to
believe
take that bet.
new Peter Jackson Lord of the Rings trilogy coming.
I don't know about a trilogy, but I could see an Aragorn movie or something from the Silmarillion.
Ultimately, the difference is that when you have a single voice, someone with a single vision, even if it's not that great, it's going to be better than something done by a committee, especially when it comes to drama. Sometimes comedies work because of the collective feeding the jokes and it becomes very funny. But with drama and action, you need a single visionary. And that's why Rings of Power sucks. Well, I guess you could say, well, Michael, what about Rebel Moon? So again, maybe I'm full of shit. But in general, you're better off. The odds of something succeeding and failing is about the same, but you might as well fail with somebody who has a vision than just a committee. And that's a part of the problem too.
See, now you guys are getting the idea. Yes, it could be Gollum for 4 hours doing nothing but eating fish.
Yeah.
It would be more entertaining than this guy. I don't know how many of you guys on the panel actually got through Rings of Power.
I did. It was suffering. I mean, I equate suffering through that with suffering through the last season I ever saw of Star Trek Discovery, which was the first
See,
season.
and I'll go one step further, Andre, and say that for me, it was like being waterboarded for a while.
Mm-hmm.
It was terrible. Look, there's physical cringe that really creates knots in your muscles, and by the time you're done, you almost can't breathe because you're so tense.
But didn't you love the opening with those little kids in the stream and getting bullied? The very opening, wasn't that the greatest?
Yeah. They're constant. Look, those little Hobbit stand-ins are terrible little things. I mean,
no, I'll tell you what.
Script Doctor.
The thing that disappointed me most about them playing with the boat in the river is that there wasn't a drainage ditch for a fucking clown to hide in to eat them.
That would have been awesome. But Script Doctor said this way back when we were originally talking about Rings of Power, and that those little Hobbit stand-ins, the Harfoots, are just terrible characters.
They're disgusting. They're filthy, disgusting creature. I mean, what was it that was said about them, like filthy hobbitses? That's exactly what they were, filthy and disgusting. I mean,
they look like they look like college encampment students.
Yeah, pretty much.
Wow. Well, you mean the ones that will never find jobs now?
Correct. Now, the one thing that was interesting I don't know if you guys picked up on this, or maybe I was the only one who did, but I thought the guy who's playing Sauron looked like a clone of Matt Smith.
Kind of. Isn't that his brother or something like that?
Was he? In real life?
I know he has a brother who acts. Maybe I'm wrong, but
the white hair, I went, okay, did they deliberately go, okay, we're losing to House of Dragon. Let's just pick up some of the vibe from
maybe I'm thinking of somebody else, maybe.
Anyways.
Probably, yeah.
Matt Smith was in The Hobbit, though, wasn't he?
I don't think so.
No, maybe not.
Anyways, Matt Smith is in House.
No, he portrayed Squint in The Hobbit. Demolition of Smog. Told you.
Oh,
thought he was.
Oh, can I just say that was the worst thing ever? And I know that the situation behind that, that duology that became a trilogy for The Hobbit, that was a terrible idea. Just make one movie. The animated feature that preceded it was far better, and adding a bunch of stuff that's not in the book
here's the
was
problem.
a real tragedy.
You're not thinking about that. Peter Jackson and Warner Brothers like money.
Yeah.
Okay. See, you didn't take that into consideration, culture.
Yeah. I like money
involved.
I like money too, and I wasn't going to pay for the last two, installments of that bologna sausage. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah. No. But anyways, you guys were saying let's keep moving along with some of these super chats here. On the Dune subject. Embrace the apocalypse. You guys made a joke about the college thing in Hobbits, and you didn't even make a hunger strike joke. I'm disappointed.
Wait, a Hunger Games joke? Sure.
Hunger strike
joke? No.
Hobbits would never go on a hunger strike. That's about how college students are too. Yeah,
no, man. I'm getting ready for 11sies right now, so I feel you.
Right? And second breakfast. What about second breakfast?
I already had second breakfast, so I'm good.
Embrace the Apocalypse says Dune looks great. Yeah, what I skimmed of it looks like the movie. So I mean, they must have put some money into this.
I still say they went with the wrong story, though. They should have
Possibly.
gone with the war against the robots. But that's me. Still, this could be very interesting, and I hope for the best.
Indeed.
No, I think war with robots is always the way to go. Always.
That's generally the best way to go.
Because
Dr.
I've
Long-
read
Helldiver.
Yeah, because I've read those books about the Butlerian Jihad, and they're actually really, really cool, and they would make for a great series because it's like 3 books, and they are so cinematic already. You have everything there. It would be super easy, barely an inconvenience to turn them into a serialized format. So I'm disappointed that they haven't done that yet. But we'll see for the future. In the meantime, this thing looks cool.
Dr. Longdongler sends us in a £1.99 and a thumbs up to remind you to hit that thumbs up. We also have Sean, who's celebrating a birthday today, and Doomcock is. And guess who else is? We got a few in our community today. We have Robert Meyer Burnett and who else am I forgetting? I just said happy birthday to him this morning. Oh, that umbrella guy. So we have we have a few birthdays today. I guess there's something I got to do.
And you got it wrong, Tom. It's that umbrella god. That's how he was referred to in the Johnny Depp trial. So
you are correct. He's like a superhero now. We're buddies. I know who he is. We hang out, have drinks. He's the umbrella god. Okay. Just so you know, Culture, this is going to cost you like 40, 50, 60. However many people there are times 20. Okay.
Okay. Why?
I'm not gonna, no, it's not going to count as one. No.
Okay.
It's 4 birthdays, so that's 4.
Okay.
All right.
$4.
That's a lot of money. No, that's 20 times 4.
$80.
No, I thought it was 60.
No.
Okay, 80.
Okay.
Let's just call it an even 100 and say it's a day.
No, because then you owe me 2 birthdays.
You probably didn't even hear 3 of them. I did.
All right, fine.
Okay. Wait a minute here. Where are we? I'm not going to name all the names, though. So just so you know.
Okay, so you're discounting at $50.
10.
Okay.
If you keep it up, I'm going to make it 5. All right. Sean Carter, here you go. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Insert kid's name here. And there's 4 of them today. So insert kid's name here, insert kid's name here, insert kid's name here, insert kid's name here. Happy birthday to you. Now, send me the money because I got to go pay to get Robin on a hawk again. Joker's got him. Stupid. He wants $1 million. Like he thinks I got $1 million. Like maybe I'll have to hit up my buddy Bruce.
That's a lot of birthday requests to pay for that $1 million.
Goddamn right.
But yes, happy birthday to everyone. Happy birthday to Robert Meyer Burnett. Happy birthday to Doomcock. And happy birthday to everyone else watching. And happy birthday to Sean Carter.
Indeed. A lot of birthdays going around today. A popular day to have a child, evidently.
Well, I think the popular day was 9 months before that.
That was insinuated and left without saying.
A lot of Labor Day conceptions, I guess.
There was Labor Day, yeah. Alan Octavian Moldavan's in the house for 33 months. He's been a member. Thank you for that. And he says, "Hail panel. Dune Prophecy looks intriguing. I hope it lives up to the cinematic universe created by Villeneuve. Also, TR is doomed. Much a shame."
Tucked in a Tomb Raider.
Tomb Raider, yeah.
See, teachers time it so they give birth in May, so they get the summer off, and then they get the next year off.
Yeah.
That is smart.
Donut Lord has been a member for 11 months, almost a year.
I mean,
you guys ever
birthing? I'm saying birthing teachers. I apologize. Sorry.
Birthing people.
Birthing people.
Okay, I just want to point out that only women's can do that.
You assumed their jobs, and that's the next line of defense.
Oh gosh.
Donut Lord has been here for almost a year and says, "Do you guys ever wrestle with stuff you like more, or do you just watch movies? Star Wars, Trek, Marvel, DC stuff is expensive. Can't choose." Okay, so well, I mean, what I think you're asking here, as far as like Star Wars and stuff, I've shut that off. Like I've not bought anything Star Wars since something Baby Yoda, and a lot of that stuff I gave away. Star Trek, outside of classic Trek stuff, no. I've picked up a few figures and movies here and there over the past few years, but nothing that I could really brag about. Marvel, no. DC, no. So yeah, stuff is expensive and it sucks now. There's nothing worth picking up. What about you guys?
I like the old stuff. This is do you remember?
Yeah, I'll buy some old stuff once in a while, like that. Yeah,
this, right? The old Gilbert stuff.
Yeah, that doesn't count though. Yeah, I think he's talking about new stuff,
but it makes me happy.
Yeah, you almost got to pick something after a while. Like with Ninja Turtles was another one for me. Like for the longest time, outside of the Playmates toys, there wasn't a whole lot of collectibles for Ninja Turtles, and then all of a sudden the market just started getting flooded. So you almost have to just kind of like choose what you're going to collect. Same thing with He-Man, right? Like, I just had to shut that one off too, because it was like, you guys are just going to keep milking me for more money otherwise. What about you guys? Anybody else?
Well, as for me, I don't really do much collectibles and stuff as a general thing. So for me, it's the movies and stuff. But even there, you only have so much time in the day, especially when you're a content creator, which takes a lot of time. So it's like, if I have a quiet moment, that's when I'm going to be like, okay, I have 2 hours. This needs to be planned. What am I watching now? It's kind of like that. What do I feel like more in this moment? But I don't have like any debates of what's my top 3, what's my top 5, not as a general thing. No, I just like, this is the kind of stuff I like, and I know there's so much stuff I'll never be able to get into because there's so much stuff out there. So I figure out like, okay, this is my favorite thing in that category, and then I have room for maybe one other, and everything else you just missed out on that, and I'll check out new stuff in other unoccupied categories later on.
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
Yeah, and as far as watching stuff, Andre's right. Like a lot of times, I should be watching something. I'll start watching that something, and then all of a sudden, something magical will happen, and my hand will grab a movie from somewhere else and put it in the disc player, and whatever I was watching, that will go away. And now I'm watching something else instead, like Hardware Wars. Like that's how that happens sometimes. My interest goes real fast. It's like if I'm playing on my phone after about 10-15 minutes, it's like, no, this is off. Because my time, I don't have a lot of time either, like Andre's saying. Like we're booked constantly trying to deal with family, regular life, Midnight's Edge, getting videos made, the streams, appearances, all that kind of stuff, that just to sit down and watch something for 2 hours can be very difficult. So even like me trying to watch like that He-Man show was a pain in the ass. I didn't even watch the new one yet. I'm not going to. But anyway, let's see here. We got Killybite, who's a new member. Thank you for that. We had a member stream yesterday. Too bad you didn't join us then, Alec, but you'll be able to join us on the next one. Alec Baldwin's trigger finger's here, and he's very, very, very touchy. It says, Mr. Chato, small jugs are un-American. He's right.
Well, except on Kerry Russell in my movie. I have in my 8 days a week won what is called on Howard Stern's show an Anatomy Award. And they had some guest on, and they were talking about the best wet t-shirt scenes in movies. And I came in second to Jacqueline Bisset. I didn't come in second, but Kerry Russell in my movie came in second. But I came in second to Jacqueline Bisset in The Deep. But I did that year for the best wet t-shirt scene win I thought it was funny, an Anatomy Award. So sometimes I actually happen to be a small boobs person, and if you haven't seen 8 days a week, the character talks for like 3 minutes about what different boobs mean, size, uplifting, and it's very poetic. And he does this whole speech about how great Kerry Russell's breasts are. And you should check out that movie and scene, and I might convert you into being at least an appreciative of the small breasts, because it makes a woman look youthful forever because they never droop. Whereas bigger boobs, you can, you've seen the trick where they hang the pencil, you can hold your pen.
Bette Midler did a stick on
I just don't like that. I like uplifted, youthful forever, therefore small.
I'll put Diane Cannon in a wet t-shirt against Kerry Russell.
I don't know. I never was a big guy. After you see her at the Laker games, it's hard to imagine her.
No, in her prime, not now.
Okay, I appreciate the exercise in misogyny here. But, yeah, you know.
Yeah, Culture's got a point.
No,
It's
it's
just
not
it's a
misogyny. It's
beautiful-
Darwinism. It's Darwinism. It's not misogyny.
Well, no, we don't have that anymore because the dumb people are still alive because they got all these warning labels. Freaking, you know what? You want to take your hair dryer into the shower? I'm all for it. March in there.
Anyway, Leo saw. What was that, Michael? Sorry.
In a dryer, should go in the bathtub. That's the easier way to electrocute yourself, right?
Well, yeah, you know, hey, look, if you're pressed for time in the morning,
we're not condoning this type of behavior,
No.
by the way. But anyway, Leo Saunders is here and sends him €2. Says, "Call me Chato. Please review Homeworld 3, the story of it."
I will look into it.
There you go. You had a request. And we got Warachi here who says with $5, I almost said pounds for some reason. "It seems to me there is a distinct lack of appreciation in Hollywood for their products by the studio's writers, especially actors. Mystifying." Well, it's always been that way.
No, but you know, the thing about it is that when we talk about like Rings of Power and how much we dislike it, it's because we wanted it to be great. We were rooting for it. And we've seen like Peter Jackson, we loved it, right? And so our lack of appreciation for the stuff that sucks is basically kind of a subtext for how much we love the stuff that was awesome. And so that's why it comes out this way. But we love a lot of the Hollywood product.
Here's the thing is most studios are full of, and that part hasn't changed forever, just basically people who are money men, who are in the business because they had somebody had told them that making movies can make you a lot of money as long as you're not a director, writer, actor, etc. If you're a producer, that's where the money is, right? Somebody at some point was smart enough and told them that. So you have a lot of these people in Hollywood who rise up the ranks in the studios, and they don't really give a shit. They don't really care as long as stuff is making money. What you did have, though, is guys like Bob Shea. And what Bob Shea did is he took one look at Lord of the Rings when he was listening to Peter Jackson's pitch, and he goes, wait a minute, 2 movies? Why 2 movies? And Peter's like, well, that's all Harvey will pay for, meaning Harvey Weinstein. And Bob's like, well, fuck that. It's 3 books. Let's make 3 movies. And he even told us, he's like, if there had been 5 books, I'd have made 5 fucking movies. Right? Because he's somebody who just loved this stuff, loved movies in general, and he knew he could make money off it at the same time and how to make money off it at the same time. We don't have those smart moguls anymore. You brought up Charlie Band earlier, who
Charlie
notoriously doesn't know how to handle money, but you know what? He has still managed to make his way in through Hollywood doing basically the Cannon method for years, which is go ahead.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. I apologize. But did you know how Charlie first made his money that he could then finance movies? People know this story. It's amazing. So
go ahead and tell it. I probably
do you remember these, like the birthday present for somebody who has everything, and you could buy the front page of the New York Times on the day that person was born? Remember that? You know, and you could pay like $25, $50, $100, whatever. Well, Charlie Band was looking, he was young. Charlie Band was looking through the newspaper, and somebody had this gigantic warehouse that had every New York Times back to the 1920s or whenever it started, and they were selling it. And Charlie called the guy up. He didn't know what he was going to do with it, but he says, I'll buy it. And it was obviously a Charlie lowball offer. And the person says, okay, I'll take it, but with one caveat: you have to move this shit out of here. So Charlie, and the guy had a deadline. So Charlie got everybody he knew. He got these Volkswagens, you know, these little cars, trucks, anything he could get to drive there as like the convoy from Road Warrior, and loaded up all these New York Times, and he put it in a warehouse. And then he figured out, well, I'm going to do this thing. I'm going to sell the front pages. I'd like to have a framed front page of, you know, when my birthday was. And it started making a ton of money. And then, but Charlie didn't like this business. He always wanted to be in the movie business. And somebody came to him and says, I'll give you $1 million for all your collection of New York Times. And he said, sure. And he took the $1 million and then started making movies. So back in the day, he had some kind of vision, or he just had an instinct. I don't know what I'm going to do with these New York Times, but I'm getting them. Pretty amazing.
Yeah, and he kind of got into making movies the same kind of way, like you said. I mean, even though, you know, he's managed to stick around all this time. I see you worked with him quite a bit there. A couple of movies.
Well, yeah, I mean, I got there after when it was really,
which is kind of a commonality between a lot of people we get here. Because like Charlie Band, for those who need to understand, he is kind of like Harvey Korman 2.0 in a lot of ways. Like he's worked with a lot of people.
Yeah.
A lot of people.
Yeah, but but like apparently, like he escaped. Somebody put a bomb in his car because he was notorious for not paying people. The other thing I learned later on, which is really dangerous, he used to make all his movies in Romania, right?
Yeah.
But the Romanians would only take cash. And Charlie would get some young 20-year-old intern, right, and say, hey, would you like to go to Romania and, watch the making? It'd be a great learning experience. And all you have to do is take some papers and contracts over here. Here's this briefcase. He didn't tell the kid that the briefcase was filled with like hundreds of thousands of dollars to pay the Romanians. But Charlie was so nervous about, the money, he would send some kid who didn't know, who could have been robbed, beaten up, shot, if somebody knew that he was the courier for Charlie. And the kid would get there thinking, oh, it's just paperwork. But he was handing over the cash to the Romanians.
That's a movie.
Right.
Yeah.
And then
that's a plot for a movie.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing that you understand. Well, is it nature or nurture? And this is a case for nurture. So, everybody, his dad, Albert Band, was like Sir John Huston's protege, right?
Yep.
But there was a period of time that Albert Band was making these spaghetti westerns in Italy. And Charlie, when he was a boy, they would stay in these hotels in Italy. And then when the movies were done, instead of paying his bill, Albert and his son and his wife would sneak out in the middle of the night, not paying their 3 months or 5 months bills.
Oh,
right?
my.
And look at that. Your dad is teaching you to cheat people as a kid, right? And then Charlie, just follows in his dad's, path.
I've heard so many stories like this. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's like, wow, So, but I mean, Charlie gave me my first shot at directing, so I can't really get upset with him. But I was really frustrated when he basically folded, because literally 3 months before he had signed me to a 6-picture deal to write 6 scripts for him in a year. And now that doesn't, that sounds like, wow, he only paid $15,000 a script, but I could write them in 2 or 3 weeks. That was like $100,000. That was the biggest payday I would have had, right? And my agent at Gersh was going around, Michael Davis has got a 6-picture deal with him, Charlie Band. But I was like really disappointed that he had blown it, because that would have been the greatest year of my life, is writing 6 scripts for him. Because I also have to say, like when I wrote Beanstalk, this has never happened to a filmmaker. I turned in my script to Beanstalk, which is a modern day Jack Lee Beanstalk. His wife, Debbie Dion, and my friend Scott Fay, who is the director of development there, I walk in this meeting, get my story notes, and they say, we have no notes. No notes. And then we just talked about other things. How many writers turn in a script and get no notes? Never.
Never.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
I've seen Beanstalk before. I saw that in grade school.
Yeah.
It was actually kind of fun. I also noticed that
not bad.
the
That was
chainsaw scene, they never actually turned on the chainsaw. They just had put it up and used sound effects.
actually that was probably Charlie's best era as far as the stuff that he pumped out, and
Well,
it might be
just
because he didn't probably bother the directors all that much. I'm sure.
No,
and
he
you guys he just kind of let you guys run wild as long as you stayed within budget, I imagine.
Well, he had a big poster in one of his rooms, which was 200 films by the year 2000. And he would get the artwork made, and whenever he knew which movie and when it was going to come out, he'd have a poster up. So this board that was a checkerboard slowly became filled with one sheets, and all you had to do was make your script match the one sheet, because that's what he was selling, the one sheet. And so he was really ambitious. But the problem is that Paramount Home Video was giving him $1 million per title. And he claimed that he was spending $800,000 on a movie, and the other $200,000 went to him in overhead. But he was really making them for $300,000 or $400,000. Like I'm making a movie in with a giant, right, and a little kid fighting a giant. They gave me, I had to make that movie with 25 visual effects shots max. How do you make a movie with with a giant with 25 visual effects? I did, and actually I was clever. I ended up doing this great scene where, those red and white check tablecloths, right? Mm-hmm. Well, what I did is I made the Giants table have that, but I found the proportionate one of giant squares of red and white. So I had one shot where you saw the giant in the background and the little Jack running through a hole in the thing, right? And so that's one shot. And then it's an entire action sequence where Jack is underneath this tablecloth, which matches the wide shot. And then I just had to puppet the little guy, making the tablecloth move. And so I got all the shots of how Jack was moving or whatever. And at the end, Jack took a splinter that the giant's hand went on top, right? And so literally there was a big encounter action scene where he foils the giant, and it was one shot, but it was an extended, 2-minute action scene. And so, it forced you to be clever, but it's still kind of, come on, you got to give me a few more, shots than the 25. But anyway, crazy days.
Well, scarcity is the mother of invention, and that worked.
Yeah, so. But thank you for watching that. Well, I guess maybe it was did you see it at school or did you?
Yeah, we saw it at school.
I saw it on video as a kid, but
I recently rewatched Coffee, the blaxploitation movie.
Oh, sure.
The beautiful name
Pam Grier.
Pam Grier, and every time she pulled out the shotgun, it cut away to a wall. You heard blast. And then blood and brain bits hitting the wall. You never saw a single weapon go off.
Right. And those shots against the wall were probably from that producer's other films. They probably weren't even right.
Yeah.
Right. You reminded me, I don't know. I mean, I just love this intersection, but when I was doing went in for my first meeting for the credits for Shoot 'Em Up, one of the artists at the picture mill was this woman named Vanetta, right? And I said, I've never met anybody with the name Vanetta. The only Vanetta I know was Vanetta McGee in the Iger Sanction. And she goes, well, that's my mom. I don't know.
Oh, wow.
I love the Iger Sanction. I actually love the books even better than the movie, Jonathan Hemlock. I was searching for the next James Bond, and I watched read these Trevanian books, the Iger Sanction and the Lou Sanction. Anyway.
Just to finish up the whole Charlie Band thing, for those who may not know, you worked on the Prehistoria films, which I know are Prehysteria, sorry, which are actually pretty popular, and Pet Shop, of course, which is another pretty well-known one. So Charlie made both horror films and kid films at the same time, and he was just pumping them out for Paramount, like you said. And I'd heard that story too before, where he'd pocket most of the money.
Yeah, but the thing is, I don't know. This is my theory, okay? Is that I don't know if he kept all this money, he must have been making millions and millions of dollars a year, but he had a big house in Hollywood, but not that big, and he had his castle over in Italy. I think somebody had something on him, and all his millions, like from the mafia, had something on him, and we're going to kill him unless he kept paying. And so that's why he kept stealing all this money, because it saved his life from some other debt that he had created. Or maybe it was just the hotel owners in Italy were getting back wanted payback for sneaking out of the hotels with his dad.
Maybe they had mob connections. You never know. You never know.
Because where did his money go? It didn't go anywhere, and he doesn't have any. I mean, have you seen him at the Comic Cons where he's selling his little, his Puppet Master, right?
Oh yeah.
Figures? And then at some point, you guys know this filmmaker Dave Dakota that did a bunch. Okay, Dave Dakota. Okay, he directed I think 1 or 2 of the Prehistoria movies, right? And Charlie gave him this really difficult 12-day schedule, really hard, shorter than Beanstalk. And Dave would finish the movie in 9 days, and he wouldn't even use the other 3 to get pickups or anything. He just, nope, I'm done. And Dave has gotten it to the point where he can direct a feature film in 3 days. And for a while there, he was doing stuff for Charlie where he's making movies in 5 days. I don't know how you do it, not having a heart attack.
But Corman method.
Yeah, well, that's how Bucket of Blood was shot over a weekend.
Yep.
Or not Bucket of Blood, Little Shop of Horrors. Sorry.
Little Shop of Horrors.
But the difference here is those filmmakers would have wished that they had more time. Dave is happy not having enough time. He relishes it. And that's the opposite. That's the brilliance. I mean, I don't know.
Sometimes their best work comes out of people under pressure too. But I think Waratsi got his $5 worth there. Sean Arakale, if I'm saying that right, says Paul Neer and Stellar Blades creators love each other's work. And recently in a roundtable, the two did nothing but praise each other's work.
Yeah.
So I think this is addressed to something you were saying.
Yeah, Near Automata and Stellar Blade.
Yeah.
They're very similar in terms of their story of robots and humans and androids.
Yeah, and the game was good. I'm just going to say it that way.
Then Packing Protons is packing the heat with $20 super chat. Thank you so much. Because I'm curious what Paul thinks of this idea. Do all new season 1 on terrestrial TV move what's popular to streaming for season 2? Don't waste money on what doesn't work, although it can be a bit underhanded. Yeah, I see what you're. Do you get what he's asking here?
So move the season 1 to streaming and then do season 2 on the network. Is that what he's saying?
He's saying is start a show on network.
Oh, I
season
see.
1, and then instead of doing season 2 on the network, you just move it straight to streaming.
Well, that might kill it.
I would.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
If it's working, the best thing I've been saying this already. The best thing Hollywood could do is resurrect the 4 networks, get them out of their ennui, get pilot season up and running, because a lot of money is made on shows that never hit the air. That is an industry in of itself. And we need to get them out of just doing endless NCSIs and Chicago's and things like that. Get back and doing creative stuff. That's going to be a benefit to the entire industry and everyone in Hollywood. Bottom line.
Yeah. And also on that note, Saturday 14 Studio says for $5 in Star Trek The Next Generation, Data once stated that television didn't last much past 2040. I can definitely see that happen.
Yeah.
Oh, I was told in college television would not be television as we know it. We'd still get shows, but it'd be through essentially a computer screen.
That was the one thing that bugged me with Next Gen, is that they could not extrapolate the kind of entertainments that we were enjoying now into the future.
Yeah.
Picard was reading books. And
Parisi Squares, never saw what that game actually was. Just know that it was a game.
Yeah, and they weren't watching reruns of some show done only 10 years earlier. So
no, but they did incorporate that in Voyager. That's the thing. Like, there's one character that would show old movies on Voyager.
I agree, but it always bugged me on Next Gen that.
And Embrace the Apocalypse says for 35 South African rounds, executives, let's make money. Except Paramount, where everyone is incompetent. Speaking of
they almost work against themselves and almost just out of stupidity, it feels.
And we have to run through a few more since we're about to lose some panelists here. Magna Defender 98 says for $10 to Chato, my pal, MCU fan, is trying to ask Krista Nova out. He's mighty shy around her, so he needs some advice. Can you tell him he's a supremely impressive and magnificent professional? Thanks.
Don't ask a nerd about,
dating
anybody.
I have a kind of a funny story. So there used to be this guy who was like a vice president at Amblin. His name was Jason Hoffs, and everybody would remember he had this black hair that was, stick straight up. And I had my meeting with Jason, and in the middle of it, he goes, "Shh, hold on. Let's listen to my assistant. George Lucas wants to ask her out, but he's too shy. And so he's always calling her and having these little conversations." And apparently George, even as big as he was really shy at asking girls out. But I thought it was just so funny that we would eavesdrop on him trying to woo his Jason Hoff's assistant. Anyway,
It's George Lucas. I made Howard the Duck.
Yeah. Chato, any thoughts on this before we move?
That's how he flirts.
Krista is a very attractive woman. I guess he's just trying to he wants tips on how to, ask out attractive women. I don't know.
Well, you know what? I think he need. Let's just do the call out. The MCU fan is the next George Lucas. So he's a big nerd, but he should just ask the girl out and just claim he's going to be the next George Lucas, and he'll have a shot at it.
Well, the answer's always no unless you ask.
That's right.
That's true.
Very true. Very true. And Alejandro Diaz wonders, if you could adapt any comic to film or series, and I mean a faithful one, what would it be? Nowhere Meant for Me as a weekly series. We're about to lose some panelists, so we're real quick. Cultured, what would you have chosen if you could adapt one?
Oh, he stepped away.
Okay, script.
Transmetropolitan.
Paul.
Jeez. Mr. X.
Tom.
Kingdom Come.
As for me, Judge Dredd.
That would be good.
Oh yeah, that's a great idea. That would
And
work.
as a B, I'd like TMNT more faithful to the original comic. But the 1990 movie did just fine. And Secret of the Ooze was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Do you have any of those storyboards you could send me?
I love the animated Seth Rogen, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I love that.
It's too bad Michael had to leave. No.
My gosh, you're a contrarian.
If I'm out of sync, my mom wouldn't let me read comics as a kid. She said they were too violent. The biggest superhero comic I read as a kid was the Gold Key Disney Super Goof. So if I'm not in sync and I'm a little bit of an outlier, it's because of my mom.
Bless you.
I wanted to read the James Bond novels, and I couldn't read them until my dad went through and marked out all the sex stuff because my mom said that stuff never happened in real life. So that's where I'm stunted. So
well, it happens to the best of us. So yeah, but we are unfortunately losing a few panelists. Mr. Chato, you have to be leaving us. But I know that Tom is happy because he got a video he's been waiting for a long time that everyone needs to check out. Yeah,
the TV Guide 1986. So I'm pretty much inclusive from 1970 to 1986. I've got all the TV guides and every single show that debuted that year.
Just sell them the Charlie Band.
And I'm just going to keep going. I'm going to cut down the number of regular YouTube videos I'm doing just in general, and I'm going to try to get back into the stream of doing one of the TV Guide videos one a month.
Cool.
So I don't need to do as many videos as I'm doing.
You just brought up earlier about the whole fall time and just the nostalgia that those videos make me have for that period. Because I dislike the fact back to school and all this other stuff. The only thing I could look forward to is the new fall schedule and that fall preview, issue from TV Guide when it would show up. That was one of the few things in that season that I would look forward to until like Halloween. Basically, it's like, yeah.
How many of you guys watched the Friday night specials that they were previewing the new Saturday morning cartoon shows?
Yep.
Oh yeah,
absolutely. Every Friday night.
Yeah. The greatest thing that was fall preview of Saturday morning.
That's where I saw that original version of the real Ghostbusters reel that had the older designs of the characters and stuff that disappeared for years that they finally found in a vault here a couple of years back.
So I got to ring off, but Michael, nice meeting you.
Great meeting you.
And if I ever do get back into directing or producing something, I'm going to hire you as a character who is a Hollywood B movie producer. I love it. This is going to be fantastic.
Okay. Well, I'll email you and we'll chat. I'd love to do something like that.
You are fantastic, and I think it was wonderful to meet you. And bye, everyone. We'll talk to you, I guess.
Take care, Paul.
Yeah, on Friday. Yeah, take care. And we are unfortunately also losing a script. Anything you want to plug on the way out the door, other than your Patreon, which of course is linked to in the description already?
Yeah, every Saturday I do a screenplay review show called Scripts on Saturdays, where I talk about screenplays that are currently circulating in Hollywood without spoilers. And we have a fun little discussion that with a co-host. So go check that out every Saturday at 7 p.m. Eastern on my channel. Michael Davis, it was a pleasure meeting you, sir. Still love your work. Can't wait to see the next stuff and very excited for Blast 'em Up.
Thank
you very much. I wish you the best there.
And we'll be soon seeing you with the motion capture, so we have more animation when you're live with your avatar.
One day, maybe. For now. But in the meantime, that's what I'm doing. But yeah, feel free to reach out. I'd love to pick your brain on more movie history.
You were awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Good day, gentlemen.
And Cultured, how much longer do we have you for? You're muted. You're still muted.
Yeah, foiled again. I had to find the right button. No, I'm going to give you another 15-20 minutes. So let's
all
do
right.
it.
Let's get through the rest of these super chats, and then we'll get on to some Doctor Who and watch a trailer.
Well, we may skip Doctor Who, but we have something else to talk about here. Yeah.
Embrace the Apocalypse says, but why can't we get another Lord another Bakshi Lord of the Rings. You know, honestly, I think it would be fun if Warner Brothers were to allow Bakshi to try to crowdfund a sequel to his Lord of the Rings. And I think they could do it pretty cheap now.
Has anybody seen his crowdfunded Coney Island animated short?
No, but I do know he does that kind of stuff. That's kind of why I brought it up.
Well, it's funny because when I first came out here, I wanted to be a storyboard artist. I went to Parsons School of Design for illustration. I had my cartoons, my comic books, my storyboards, and they were hiring for whatever he did, like Cool World or whatever. And it was basically this cattle call of storyboard artists and concept artists, right? And Ralph was at this little card table, and you'd get your 3-minute. It was like speed dating, but for storyboard artists. And I had some of these oil paintings that I had done, self-portraits, and they looked a little John Singer Sargents. And Ralph stopped and looked at this stuff, and he goes, your paintings are fantastic. Why would you ever want to be a storyboard artist? This business sucks, right? I recommend you're really good. I'd like to hire you, but I'd be doing you a disservice. You're going to be so unhappy in this business, and you could see the years of the pain of making the Lord of the Rings and not doing the sequels and the fighting. And, after he did Fritz the Cat, which was innovative and it was a new thing, but trying to go mainstream never really worked. You could see he was saddened and burnt out and just weary. And he and like when I was in art school, I had a friend, my teacher, when I said, I want to go out and I'm going to go to USC Film School. He says, why do you want to go out to Hollywood? All those people are sniffing their own exhaust. And, and Hollywood is hard, and it is really hard to be upbeat the whole time because it just beats you down. And you see people that are idiots becoming giant successes, and you see people that are incredibly talented that are just struggling. And Ralph sort of encapsulated that whole feeling with, why the hell do you ever want to be a storyboard artist? It's a terrible business. Funny and sad.
It's a pretty good impression of him.
Really?
Yeah, not too bad. He kind of, in the interviews I've seen, that's kind of what he sounds like.
Yeah, I mean, but it's funny that with a filmmaker, a film director, unless you're super successful, you have to be a cheerleader because you're dragging these people along. All these people are basically like, their jobs are the equivalent of working on a construction site. They don't get any back end. They're out there in the heat and they're lifting things and hard and people are yelling at them, but they don't get paid anymore if they work fast or slow. So the only way that you can get them to work a little bit faster is if you're not an asshole and yet you kind of are upbeat, right? So I don't know how, with these low budgets and rotoscoping all those frames in Lord of the Rings, how somebody like Ralph Bakshi would be like not a cheerleader. He's the opposite. He was a sad sack. And how do you motivate these people? I don't know how he did it. I don't know. But I think
he was crushed so many times by the industry, he just became a realist over time, my guess.
Well, that's a lot. I mean,
is he somebody who never got a shot? He got like a few shots, but he never got, in my opinion, treated right by the industry. Like they always gave him the shaft. He always got shit on, always got the money taken away from him. Never got to finish this, that, or the other. A lot of promises and no follow through. And the poor guy just kind of was. I think he was just drugged through the mud.
Yeah, I hope when he makes these shorts like Coney Island that he derives some joy out of it.
He's somebody I want to talk to at some point if I can get him to talk to us. But anyway, he's a very interesting cat. So we got Coffee Lover here who sent a member chat in for 16 months. Thank you for that. And then we got Paulus Plain who says, think of fandoms past the Firefly TV series, sci-fi 1 season with 14 episodes, Serenity, the 2005 film. Fans will be there in the fullness of time, the DVDs and the Blu-rays. Maybe. But the thing I was getting at, Paulus, is they're not creating anything new like our generation and the generation before that, to where, like what Paul was saying earlier, like, sure, his generation and my generation, in this panel's generation, we enjoyed a lot of the same shows. But over time, a lot of those shows fell off. Like more recently, we just had Fall Guy come out. There's not a whole lot of people that knew that was a TV show. And the show ended in 1986, wasn't it? Culture or something like that? So like, it's not like the show was that old either. it just didn't live on that much in syndication, and it just didn't, resonate through the years.
Lee Majors was crushed when Farrah Fawcett left him for Ryan O'Neal. He bloated up, right? He just lost his lust for life. Come on, Farrah Fawcett leaving you, that's like the worst.
It'd been rough.
Yeah. But I was just using it as example of like one of those shows that just kind of fell off and not everybody kind of knew about it over time. And sure, sometimes these things come back, but
I think it's kind of interesting because it falls into this genre of Hollywood people that get into action movies. Remember that movie Effects, right? About the visual effects guy that gets into an action movie. Well, The Fall Guy is kind of like that. There's a mini genre for that. Hollywood blue collar guys getting to be in the action thing. I don't know. Funny. I have to tell you, I'm going to tell you my Ryan Gosling story. So remind me, was he in Young Hercules or was he in Young, he was in one of these, or Young Tarzan? What did he start his career in? Do you remember? One of these syndicated shows like Xena or whatever. Anyway,
Ryan Gosling. I have to look that up.
Look him up. He was either Young Tarzan or Young Hercules. Okay, and I made this movie 100 Girls that starred this woman, this great girl Larissa Olenek, who is in the Powers of Alex Mack on Nickelodeon. Right,
Young Hercules.
Young Hercules. So Larissa had missed the screening of 100 Girls, so she came to the house to see the movie, and I just put it up on VHS. And she brought her friend along, who is young Ryan Gosling. And I go, what do you do? Oh, I'm an actor. And I go, I would have cast you as my lead in one of my romantic comedies, 100 Girls, 100 Women, whatever. You have a great look. You're handsome, but you're unique looking. You're not overly handsome. You're not like a model. You've got something, and you got this great aura about you. And he goes, no, I'm not going to be a success. I ruined my career. I was in Young Hercules. Everybody's going to think I'm a joke, and because everybody's watching the show, and it's so cheesy, and they're going to see me as cheesy. I go, no, you are going to be a big star. I think you have it. You have the star quality. You're going to make Young Hercules. And now look at him. So, but he was in my house.
He's enough now.
I tell my daughters who love him, I go, he was in our house. And they go, oh.
Well, and again, like I was just saying, like the show itself was just one of those that fell off the radar. And a lot of these shows that we have now, and Andre's brought this up too, about the cultural stagnation, is that they're just reboots and remakes of shows like Frasier, and Roseanne and all these other shows. So they don't really have anything new. I mean, even like the Young Sheldon show is a spinoff of, a Big Bang Theory. So like outside of Stranger Things, like really, has there been anything new for this generation that they can probably look back on? And even that's not going to have that long enough of a run to where you can, 20, 30 episodes tops.
Yeah. Well, it's the reason why we have the situation, it really still is human nature, is all these people are fearful. Now think about it. Okay. Let's say you had a job for $200,000, $300,000 a year. And your job was you can roll in at 10 o'clock, right? At 11 o'clock, you finish reading the trades and you take a meeting. Somebody's going to pitch you something that, you're probably not going to buy, right? And then it's noon time, and then you decide you're going to drive to lunch, and you have lunch with some, a starlet or another writer or another producer, right? You're palsy-walsy. You go back, and then now it's 3 o'clock, and you have another couple meetings. You then talk to your boss and say, what did you read this weekend? And you didn't read the script. You just had your assistant do the coverage. So now you didn't do the work, right? And you say, well, I think we should hire this writer to do something. But the more they don't have a flop on their hands, they get this job where it's really the life of Riley, right? And so they don't want to stick their neck out, because the moment they say yes to something, if that thing fails, they get fired. But if they make nothing, they keep their lifestyle. So let me ask you this. If you had that lifestyle, would you try to make something new and daring, or would you try to protect your crazy lifestyle? I'm not saying it's fair or if it's right, but this is the mentality of happening. These people are protecting their jobs by not doing something original. And that's why you get so much crap. It's human nature. Right?
Yeah, that's a good point too. Then we got Mr. Oh, go ahead.
No, I'm fine.
Mr. Colburn just became a member as well. Thank you for that, Mr. Colburn. And then we've got Graph Webb, who reminds us, as he does always, for $2 to hashtag cancel Disney Plus. And Mr. Colburn also sent in a $5 super chat and says, speaking of He-Man, there's a tabletop game on Kickstarter. Does it look true to the spirit of He-Man or just another money grab? I glanced over it a while back. It looked okay. And a lot of these tabletop games do seem to be okay. I'm just not really into them, I guess, is my thing. But
yeah, it's the same.
Seems like they do have
so
like a fandom. So yeah,
I'm not qualified to speak on the subject. I hope it's good for the fans and for the people who made it.
Yeah.
I cannot say. I don't know how authentic. I can't say.
Yeah, but one thing I am looking forward to, I can say, is this Blast 'em Up comic book. We got a trailer here.
It's a movie, a feature. It's a animated feature film.
Animated feature film, not a comic book. I'm sorry.
And I'm animating it all by myself because the software now is so great. It's so empowering that, one guy, what you're about to see, I did everything from character modeling to the animation, to the lighting, to the editing, to the prop design. I did it all in 3 weeks. And one of the secondary goals, besides having fun making this thing, is hopefully other people out there and saying, hey, that's pretty good. I could do that. That they could learn and say, look, I don't need a ton of money. I got this script. I can't make it because it's got a big budget, but I could make it in CGI. I'll do what Michael did. Anyway.
Just don't tell Charlie you can do it in 3 weeks.
Blast 'em Up is a sci-fi follow-up to my film Shoot 'em Up, starring Clive Owen. Hi, I'm Michael Davis, writer-director of 7 feature films. I want to take the super clever gunplay that's in Shoot 'em Up and put the same cool, crazy, imaginative action into a futuristic world. There's one big problem getting Blast 'em Up made. Every studio I showed the script to shot me down. Even though many fans said,
Shoot 'em Up is mankind's greatest achievement.
The film wasn't a hit, so there was no way anybody was going to give me the money to make a big sci-fi movie about a band of space thieves who attempt the greatest heist of their careers only to encounter aliens bent on destroying mankind. Because I love making action movies so much...
Bring 'em out! Then bam!
Oh, cool, he fried them! I decided to say, blast you, Hollywood. I'm going to find a way to make it myself. I taught myself computer-generated animation. I created everything in the Blast 'em Up footage you've just seen, from animation, set, spaceship, and prop design, plus the lighting and camera work. I feel so empowered. Nobody can stop me from making a movie. Whatever fantastic idea I come up with, I can now put into an animated film. High-quality feature film animation can now be produced by a single animator. I hope Blast 'em Up is a revolution in feature film animation because I'm going to teach others my process in hopes of inspiring future solo animation wizards to make their own CGI movies. I'll do this through detailed making of videos, and I'll be appearing on several Movie Geek YouTuber shows to talk about the making of Blast 'em Up.
Like this
These
one.
Movie Geek YouTubers are supporting the film. I'll be a guest on their shows where I'll also tell my funny and horrific stories about the film business. I am so grateful for their backing. I'm not crazy thinking I can animate a feature film all by myself. I just did it. I single-handedly drew a 2D animated feature, Nix, that premiered at the world-renowned Annecy International Animation Film Festival. To make Blast 'em Up, I need your help, you animation, sci-fi, action-adventure fans. Most computer-generated features cost tens of millions of dollars, sometimes $100 million. I just need $80,000 to fund all the stuff I can't do myself. I need great voice actors, maybe even a star, and performers for motion capture shoots. Hard drive storage, CGI models, and mocap processing fees need to be covered, plus money for a composer and a professional soundtrack design. I am making a bunch of cool rewards for the support. You can even be a featured extra in the film. All backers will get to see Blast 'em Up at a virtual premiere months before it shows on the popular streamers. Remember, if you can't contribute, you can still help by sharing the project on your social media. I really appreciate all the support and excitement for the project. Oh, I gotta get a deflector shield in here.
Oh, looks great.
Yeah, thanks for showing up. That was awesome.
And if you need a trailer voice guy, just let me know, because in a world where worlds don't exist, there's Blast 'em Up.
I've already decided that I want to put the both of you in the movie. I was talking to Andre.
Oh, Lord.
Great voice. And then now that I hear all the voices, get ready. And I know that you could do more than one voice, which is the great thing.
You haven't heard anything yet.
I know. That's the beauty of it. Like when I made Nix, I had these guys come in and they would just do voice after voice after voice that were amazing. And because I did not have the pressure of having to make my day and getting the shots and, the producers leaning, Michael, you're behind schedule. Because with the voice acting, you can do as many takes as you want and you get everything you want. It was such a joy. And I actually think the performances of voice actors are stronger than sometimes the whole physical actor, because you have to immediately create something, conjuring up an image in your head of what that voice looks like. And every single voice that a voice actor did, if I closed my eyes, I could still see a great character going with that voice. And they really know how to get the music of dialogue, because that's all they have to create the energy and the portrait. And I if I could, I'd hire a voice actor all the time over a traditional, hitting their marks actor. I mean, yes, this would be great. I would love to hear all your voices. So, yeah.
Well, I can do just one, but I can
know,
do
but
it very, very well.
That's fine. I'm still trying to figure out, exactly what character I would make to match your voice. But it might be fun to put the two of you guys to. There is I don't want to say too much, but there is a funny sort of duo in the movie that maybe you get the two of them, because Tom really can kind of do the rough, blue collar, and then if I have the erudite, Andre, and these two guys paired together might be really fun in this sort of this subplot story.
I think I could be some kind of like erudite villain who gets frustrated by the.
Oh well, yeah, but that's so obvious, And then the thing about it is that you'd have to be dispatched, and you wouldn't come back if there's a sequel. But if I create another character, you could come back to the sequels, and then maybe you do a spin-off. That's your own.
I could
deal.
come back as an AI replica of myself. No one would know the difference.
Well, yeah, I certainly would be inspired by the way you look, because you do look like you sound, which is fun. Well, but I guess you can kind of tell. I mean, I think the video was pretty self-explanatory. Basically, after Shoot 'Em Up, the movie was not a hit, right? And I went into basically what is called director's jail, where I could get a lot of movies, but if you don't have a hit behind you, the executives are only looking at the numbers, and you get hired based on your box office, not about your concept, not about your vision. And I got to write a bunch of pilots, and I, went along, but it was really disheartening. But so then a friend of mine had always wanted to do like these untold stories behind the scenes of the White House. And he, the financier decided to pay me to animate this great movie, which is this Nixon solving the JFK assassination. And 95% of my movie I made, Nixed, is actually true. Nixon was obsessed with the Kennedy assassination. Partially, I don't want to give away too much, but a lot of the people he had associated with as vice president were kind of people that were involved in the whole conspiracy. So I had the ultimate auteur experience. I sat in my garage and I drew and I animated while listening to audiobooks and listening to streamers. And it was so empowering, because if I looked at the sequence and I go, it needs a few more shots, it needs to be paced up, I didn't have to go to the producer and say, I need a reshoot. All I would do is put in the effort and draw what I needed. And it was my work ethic that would get all the shots I needed. And then, but stepping back, I love Nix, but everybody that knows me is that the holy trinity of action heroes is James Bond, Han Solo, in Indiana Jones. Those movies are pure escapism. They're the feeling we all associate with. You can watch Dune and it can be smarter and more sophisticated, But nobody forgets that feeling of when they walk out of the movie feeling just so pumped up and happy because they had a good time in the movies, right? And so that's what I want to do with Blast 'em Up, like Shoot 'em Up. It's all the fun things you can do with a blaster. But this time I can have robots and aliens and spaceships and all the things that I love. It's boys with toys. And so I'm going to make this movie, but I'm doing a Kickstarter to try to raise money for all the things I can't do. Like, I'm a terrible voice actor. I can't record them. I need a composer. But I want to make a movie that's super fun to watch. But I'm also interested in what is my lifestyle. And the best thing would be having fun making an action movie. I mean, making a big or small live action movie, I always like the writing. I like the pre-production. But on set, it's very, very stressful because every day I would have a game plan. This is the perfect vision of the scene. But by 10 o'clock, we're way behind. I'm not going to get it. So I'd go to my plan B, my plan C. At the same time as being very stressed out. And by the end of the day, I still have 3 more shots and I only have 15 minutes. Can I do it, or am I going to drop something else? And most of the time on the set, I'm just sitting there watching other people work. And then all I can do is make small talk with the other actors or producers there. And I hate small talk. I like working. I like being creative. So doing Next, I had so much fun and said, why don't I have fun doing an action movie, which is the kind of things I love. And, I thought about doing an animated. I know I'm a big blabbermouth. I'm sorry. And, I just go on. But
that's cool. That's awesome. It's very, very easy to interview. Doesn't work like that. And also because you're such a wealth of knowledge, and that's the interesting thing, because you have like so many experiences and
I tell people,
so many histories from the industry, and you're sharing them in this project. That's what's awesome.
Yeah, I tell people I succeeded to the middle, right? And that because I don't have to protect my career of being like I'm now a franchise film director, I have nothing really to lose to be, and so it's easier for me to talk about the business. But so I was thinking, well, we're in the world of IP. We talked today so much about nobody doing anything new, and in some ways I've suffered for this a little bit. But I was thinking, what if I did a animated follow-up to Shoot 'em Up? But then I would have to do the whole thing of trying to get the rights and convincing New Line, and then there would be a work for hire, and then there'd be all these deadlines. And at the end of the day, I think that Shoot 'em Up, the world building was actually very narrow. If you look at it, if I were to criticize Shoot 'em Up, is that there was not there was not a lot going on. It was straight line like a bullet, but there was not very much world building except, this guy's loft. So I said, I'm not going to do Shoot 'em Up, but everybody that is a fan of the movie would like to see something like it. So why don't I do a futuristic Shoot 'em Up called Blast 'em Up? And then that made sense. Then I don't like chasing the money. I don't like chasing distribution. With the indie movies, I could make 8 days a week, and then I had to struggle until I found Warner Brothers Home Video to distribute it. It's chasing. And I'm more of an artist. I'm like a Ralph Bakshi, but at least I am not so trotted down, beaten down. And so I just want to have fun with my life. I'm an older guy now. I don't need like huge success. I don't need the accolades. I don't need the stardom. All I want to do is earn enough money so I can keep making stuff and doing, and making stuff that's fun, that made me feel like when I saw Goldfinger or The Matrix or Indiana Jones or Star Wars the first time. It's just a rollicking good time with fun, cool action. And that's what I'm going for. And I'm just asking for some people help. So the Kickstarter is live. It's going for 45 days. You can check out the link here. And maybe, you'll decide to back me. If not, just say hi. I love getting the emails of support. But I also, besides that, and I said it in my video, but I'm going to say it again. There's so many great pieces of software or apps. There's this new thing called Move.ai. And with your iPhone, you set up from 2 to 6 or 12 iPhones in like a circle, and you get motion capture that is almost as good as Avatar. And you can do it in your living room. And then all of a sudden, yes, you have to do some tweaks or changes. And I sometimes exaggerate it to make it look more cartoony or, extreme or exaggerated. but you can get studio level mocap with just your iPhones. And I ended up buying, you don't even need to sign up for a plan. I got all these, this is the one with a plan, but I got 4 others that are just iPhones with no plan, and I use them as cameras. And you create your own volume, and you create this great professional level. And then the software is just so easy to animate. It's not like Maya. And I think there's some indie filmmakers, indie animators, that if they watch me go through the process of making this movie in 2 years, they're going to be inspired and say, I can make a cool indie movie. And the animation quality is going to be top notch. The look is going to look top notch, but I'm not going for realism because I'm not good enough at the rendering. I'm going, hopefully for a better Clone Wars. I know he said end Disney Plus, but I think at the end of the day, it's like Shoot 'em Up didn't have great Michael Bay photography. It looked good. Peter Powell did a great job, but it wasn't sumptuous. Or John Wick looked so great. I didn't have the budget or time to do that. But at the end of the day, content is king. If you have a cool action scene where a guy is making love to Monica Bellucci and you're having a shootout, that's the big idea. It's not the photography. It's not the rendering. And so I think I can make a balls out great action movie that's fun to watch. That's just me. But I think then with the technology out there, more and more independent filmmakers are going to make stuff that's being worthy of being on the big streamers, that's as good as, Clone Wars or The Bad Batch, or better, and as good as, Love, Death, and Robots, all on their own. And they won't be constrained by the whole thing we've talked about, Hollywood, where these people, you have to homogenize things because people are afraid. I can do whatever cool thing I want to do. Like I have this scene in the script that people said, oh, that's too gross. Nobody's going to like that, but I want to do it. I have this scene where the character is, at the end of a corridor, and the bad guys are going, the aliens are coming at him, and out a portal or whatever is a gigantic drop. If he jumps, he's going to fall and go splat. He's never going to make it. But what he ends up doing is the lead alien that comes at him, he ends up gutting the guy. And, our own intestines wrapped up are like 22 feet long. Well, these aliens are taller. So his intestines are about 40 feet long. And he uses the alien's guts to rappel down like a rope, right? Well, it's gross, but I think that would be really fun. I've never seen that before. And it's kind of clever. And it plays with the whole aliens, bigger and intestines. And so, but if I did that at the studio, they go, oh, I don't know. That's like maybe turn people off. But I want to do it, and that's what I'm talking about, is that you can take a genre that's a crowd-pleasing genre, but you put your own voice in it because you're making what you want to see. And chances are maybe some people won't want to see that, but because I know there are other people that like them, there's going to be loads of people that want to see what I like to see. And that's what Phoebe Waller-Bridges doesn't do, is that she's got an indie voice, and either Hollywood has, tamed her or muzzled her, but the reason you hire her is to give a little edge or originality. Or, as I said, you want filmmakers to have a voice. You see a Wes Anderson movie, only Wes Anderson could make that movie. And like the biggest compliments I've gotten over the years is like some guy says, I was watching 8 days a week on TV, and I loved it so much. And I go, but it reminded me, oh, that guy, I looked it up. He's the guy who did 100 Girls that I loved. It's the same guy. I knew it was the same guy. That's the biggest compliment that people say. Only you could make that movie. That movie is unique to you. And that's why I wish studios would understand that you're better off with a Peter Jackson sword and sorcery piece than a Rings of Power, because he at least cares. It's his thing. It's his baby. It's going to be better because it's somebody's vision. So anyway, I know I could go on and on, but anyway. So that's what I'm doing. A Kickstarter. I'm not asking for much, $80,000 to help me get the actors and hire Tom and Andre. And if CC wants to be in it, you could be a voice actor too. So, so you're really going to be giving me the budget to hire these guys to voice act.
Well, if that's not the sales pitch, I don't know what is. So everyone, make sure to support Blast Them Up. It's going to have a great community. It's going to be some great stuff there for those that want to take the plunge and make their own things. Sounds like to me it's going to be like, this is how you make your own stuff in a box. So definitely check that out. Link is both in the description and in the pinned comment, and I also see the mods are putting it all over the place here, so it shouldn't be too difficult to find. So do check it out, and yeah, I don't think you'll regret it.
So you guys have any questions, or have I basically answered everything with my...
You are very eloquent, and you have a level of passion that few creators do. So I have a feeling you will be successful in the $80,000 yield. You might even overperform.
Well, it's really interesting because this is really who I am. But I look at somebody like Chris Nolan or Sam Raimi, and they have their iconic suits. And I swear Chris Nolan must get a haircut every day. I saw him at a deli, and it still was this very
probably has a stylist.
But they look like somebody the studio feels comfortable giving $100 million, right? And I think there's a whole thing about success that there are all these things that help you, not just your talent or your great script. And I think one of the things that maybe was a deterrent to me is don't look like $1 million. I'm usually pretty schlubby. And I think that who I am, not that I regret it, is not the perfect fit to have Hollywood trust me. And so if somebody's out here aspiring to be, or they're doing indie films and they want to take the next step, there is an element of looking the part. And I probably, like the guy said, he'd cast me as a B movie producer. Maybe my persona is perfect casting for being a B level filmmaker. But, Chris Nolan, he's a great filmmaker, but he also is performing the part of somebody that you would trust. Does that make sense?
Makes perfect sense because he has the panache that you would expect of an A-list director in this day and age. There was a time when you would expect an A-lister to be like some weirdo like Woody Allen, but that time is behind us. Now, Nolan is the perfect example of what is expected of an A-list filmmaker.
Well, you know what I think is really funny? I had a friend that was working for James L. Brooks when Wes Anderson did his Bottle Rocket, okay? And everybody thinks that the suits that Wes wears, right, or his old suits from his childhood, and he loved them so much that he kept them. And he goes, no. When Wes was, before the movie came out, knew that he had to create a look, right, that would separate him out. And he went out to these thrift stores looking for something. He didn't know what it was, whether he was going to wear a vest and a pork pie hat or whatever. And he stumbled upon that look. It's a very calculated decision on his part that this is my look. It was his branding. And he didn't look dressed like that when he was a kid with his childhood with Owen Wilson. He created that. And it's brilliant. But at the same time, I kind of I wish I hadn't known that, because I kind of wish that it was more genuine. And I think the one that's more genuine, I think some people like him, some people don't, is McGee, right? At least you remember that guy, McGee. What a great name. But he didn't come to Hollywood and say, start calling me McGee. Everybody had been calling him that since he was a little kid. And so there is an authenticity, even though it sounds like a Hollywood name, but it's not. He's been McGee all his life, and I think that's a great thing. Michael Davis is pretty boring. Or like Thomas Anderson. It's much better to be Paul Thomas Anderson, because it sounds less like, white guy from suburbia. Well, Michael Davis, I should be Michael Paul Davis, right? But
we have a viewer question though. The Davina Duckworth, she has some comments here in the chat. She thinks you have a very strong character, but wants some more details. Who are the characters?
Okay,
where's the setting? Who is the villain?
Okay. So the movie is a sci-fi heist film. It's kind of like The Italian Job in the future. And our characters, Charlie, is the lead guy. He's like a young Michael Caine. There's an homage, obviously, to The Italian Job. And he's the brains of the operation. And then he's got his, you have these getaway car drivers. I'm having sci-fi fun with these tropes. Well, instead of a getaway car driver, you have a getaway starship pilot. And this guy's name is Tony Dammit, because everything he says, damn it. He's like, hey, Andre, how you doing, damn it, right? man, we barely got away from that, damn it. And it's just funny because I like saying damn it. And so his name is Tony Dammit. And then there's a character, Ursa, and we're in a sci-fi, and she's an empath. She can read people's minds. She can dive into your brain. Well, she's really good at getting the codes by going into somebody's brain to unlock the vaults, right? And then there's this cute girl, Piper. She's a cyborg, but she has all these facial and body implants that she can morph her body into looking like anybody. And so she's the master of disguise. And then you have to have like the Obi-Wan, the wise, old character, the old thief, which I modeled. I don't know if I would get him the voice. His name's Masterson, but I'd love to have Michael Caine, again, an homage to the original Italian Job. So this ragtag group of thieves are setting out to make the great heist of their careers. And when they're in the middle of the heist, there is a surprise, and it turns out that they accidentally unleashed these aliens that the military had found frozen in a cryogenic state. But when they come to do the heist, they fuck things up, and these aliens come out, and they're bent on destroying mankind. And you basically got to shoot them up with our heroes against the aliens. And there are a couple of aliens. Obviously, you got an alien leader. The aliens are really interesting because you actually kind of have to kill them twice. They basically have this whole outer shell, right? They're an exoskeleton, but their more sophisticated stuff is like this, like almost gooey, like worm-like thing that comes out that can then swirl like a blob or whatever, a snake along the floor. And I like this idea of the hero. It's both a old-fashioned shoot 'em up, but it's also got a futuristic thing. So our hero doesn't just wield a blaster like Harrison Ford. He has an old Colt 45. And so you see him shooting, he's shooting with the old anachronistic old gun and the modern blaster. And that actually turns out to be pretty cool because the fact that he can shoot with both weapons helps him solve many, many problems going up against this alien race. And in the middle of it, they're still going to try to pull off their original heist. So it's a heist film, but with more aliens and more gunfights.
Yeah. And a follow-up. And what is the visual design concept? Retro, cell shading, Art Deco, etc.
The cell shading, I love that look in CGI cell shading, but it's actually much harder to achieve. But what I'm doing is, and I told you guys earlier that I can't do super realistic. And I think the more you try to do realistic, everybody's trying to see, is it in the uncanny valley? Is it like, it looks too like, I mean, this is a bad example. We've gone way past that, the Polar Express. So I am making the characters exaggerated. They don't look cartoony, but their proportions are exaggerated, so they're not realistic. So nobody is looking for my rendering to be, the most amazing thing that you've ever seen, like a great Pixar movie or The Incredibles or whatever. Well, I shouldn't do that, but like these very realistic cut cinematics from video games. I can't do that. So I'm taking the edge off. If your character's tall, he's really tall. If he's strong, his proportions are larger than life, but they don't go so far that he's cartooning. Then the other thing is when you see the characters and their faces and all that. If anybody's seen Arcane, everybody loves how the character's texturing looks like a gouache painting, like a Ralph McQuarrie painting. I'm good at that, but not as good at the sculpting part. So what I do is I take the originally realistic texture map and I put it into Photoshop, and they have a function where you can like make it look like it's oil painting brushstrokes, less realistic. And so I run it through that. So when the characters come back, if you get into a close-up, you can kind of see the brushstrokes like a better version. I don't like the sculpting in like Clone Wars, but the original concept Dave Filoni had was that he wanted to make Clone Wars look like Ralph McQuarrie, the original concept artist on Star Wars. So he had this idea of making everything look like a gouache painting. But gouache is a very flat, not very shiny paint. It's like a anyway. And so there's not very much reflectivity and not that much change in the different texturing, slick or shiny or flat in Clone Wars. So I'm taking more of a painterly look to the texturing, but you're getting all the shiny stuff. And the other things that they don't do very much, and you see this in almost all the Pixar movies, is it's really hard to do specific lighting with a hard backlight and a hard side light. Like, you might not like the Michael Bay movies, but I love the cinematography with a hot backlight, the stylized look in a slash of color. So I'm, from a lighting standpoint, I'm trying to make it like a Michael Bay action movie. But the trick is when characters move, when they're one shot, the lighting is perfect. But if they move, they're going to move out of that hot backlight, and all of a sudden their face is like blown out by the backlight. So I have to find a way. It's really hard when the character moves to make the backlight move with them, but not at the same time. Then you don't want to see when he moves, the backlight hitting the wall, right? Or you can see like that doesn't look realistic. It looks like a light moving with the character rather than a static sun coming in. So it's tricky. But so I'm emulating a big action movie lighting cinematography with the hot backlights, and I'm using a painterly texture, and I'm exaggerating the proportions, and even sometimes like doorways, like I kit bash lots of different models to make original sets. But sometimes a doorway that comes normally for a 6 foot feet, I'll make it a little bit larger or a little bit thinner, so it doesn't look quite realistic. It looks, I don't want to say cartoonerized, but it's exaggerated. So you're not expecting realism, but it's realistic enough that I can make sort of a PG-13, probably R-rated action movie, and it doesn't look like toon characters. It doesn't look like Sausage Party.
It sounds like exactly what is needed. And unfortunately, Cultured Casino also needs to be leaving us. So everyone check out Cultured Casino. Link is in the description.
Is he going to pitch what he's doing? Pitch what you're doing before you leave, please.
Oh, sure thing. Yeah, no, I've got a video dropping in just a few moments, if not already, for the Square Enix earnings predicting that the gaming industry is in full collapse now. Not just the layoffs and all the other observations, but the fact that they're pivoting towards profiting by eliminating exclusivity with Sony. So you can check out all the details in that story and my thoughts and analysis. I released a video earlier today talking about the Disney shills trying to pump up the Apes movie as something that is leading Disney back from the dead. And, well, I analyzed the heck out of that as well. So do check out both of those projects I put together today. We've got more live streams later in the day. I will be on with Lorena Creole. On that note, thanks for having me, gentlemen. I cannot wait for your project, Michael. And I'm going to
email you. I want to connect with you.
I'm going to start promoting the heck out of that. So
I'm going to send you the link so you can be an affiliate marketer. So you can get back end.
I actually already managed to do that, so you don't even have to do that. So it was wonderful to meet you. And again, guys, check out his project. He's very passionate about it, and it does look amazing. I can't wait for it. I'll see you guys later.
Yeah.
Bye, everybody.
And before we round out, we have a couple of audience questions for you as well. Back in Protons wonders for $10. Michael, that's what I did with my Ninja Turtle remakes. I taught myself how to do character design, lighting, etc. from 2010 to 2020. Got one show done in 6 months. Quality is debatable.
I'm going to go after the show. I'm going to check out your shows. My only thought to you is, now that you have, like, when I was learning illustration or paintings, I would like copy like N.C. Wyeth or, Norman Rockwell. So I got my craft up. But now that you've nailed the craft, you should create a property that you own so that you can make it. When it's a big success, you don't have to worry that you don't have the rights. You could, even if you wanted, twist it. It could still be like Ninja Turtles, but maybe it's Samurai Turtles or whatever, or twist it like, I did Shoot 'em Up to Blast 'em Up. But I heartily recommend that you take this from, you've mastered the art, now master getting recognized for your originality and your talent. And the best way is to do your own thing. And if you've already can do this in 6 months, you can create any universe now. You have the ability, that's what you're going to do. But, if you want, I don't know whether I could get your email or contact me on the Blast 'em Up. Just go to blastemup.com. There's a contact there. We could have a conversation because I'm going to look at your stuff. And then, maybe we can talk a little bit more about what you're doing. I'd love to start that.
Yeah. And I'm glad you said that, because that's something I tell people all the time when they're like, I want to make a fan film of this, that, and the other. And my first response is don't. Just take
Yeah.
your idea and make something original, because otherwise you're just throwing money out the door.
That's right. I mean, if it's a practice piece and you want to do, I understand some of these things like they're great at, oh, I got a great Darth Vader off a Turbo Squid. That's
Right.
great, but it's much better. I mean, because you never know what could happen with it. I mean, remember they were making all these shorts and then all the studios say, I love your short. Let's turn it into a movie. You never know how you're going to get discovered. But if it's something that a producer can't get the rights to, they're not going to call you. But if they go, I love your short, how about making a bigger movie? It has happened. It's like winning the lottery, but it's not like it hasn't happened before. Yeah, no fan films, original films.
Yeah. And Embrace the Apocalypse says for 14 South African rands. Michael, can you spare a carrot?
Yeah, I like raw carrots, but I do not like cooked carrots. But I don't know if I have any vegetables in the new movie. I have to think about it. But yeah, I have to tell you, if you go to my Instagram or TikTok, I did a video of all this great fan art. And people have recreated these posters, and a couple of them have made these movie posters for Shoot 'em Up, but using carrots as the theme of the imagery, and the stuff is amazing. Also, I did put in there somebody in France painted like a 30-foot by 20-foot mural of Shoot 'em Up. That the people have loved the films, but I love the carrot. But you should see this fan art that people have done with carrots. Just go to, you're going to look, it's either MP Davis 007 or MP Davis Agent 007, or just do hashtag blast them up or hashtag Michael Davis. You'll find me. I've gotten on Facebook last week, I got disconnected from being able to post for 5 days because I was sending out too many blast them up promos and people thought I was scamming. And I'm like, no, I went to my old high school site. It's my old high school, right? And they blocked me because I was putting up my artwork, but they said I was spamming. And at USC, one of my friends was the head of the group, and he didn't block me, but he said, Michael, you have to stop spamming. And I'm like, look, everybody loves it. And he goes, yeah, but it feels like because you have a link, it's spam. So anyway, so you can't. I think I've done the most promos and little videos for a Kickstarter of anybody in the history. So you cannot miss it if you just do a search. Yeah.
All right. Well, with that, what else we got here, Andre?
We have Chaos Sonic, who tells us, sent you an XDM on Assassin's Creed response to Shogun, and the Japanese are not having it. P.S. Remember, Ubisoft were the ones who started Sweet Baby Inc. So we'll have to look that up and get back to that either on Friday or maybe in a video.
Basically, from what I see here, it says it has a game where black people massacre Japanese people. So
yeah, that's not problematic and relevant at all.
Not at all.
What's going?
Not at all. Not in the least.
Not at all. Not in the slightest.
God, how do they manage to be so fucking like?
Comes with practice. Practice.
I don't. You probably have talked about this, but there's one thing that I really liked about the Japanese comic book industry is over here. If you decided to publish or self-publish your own Ninja Turtles comic book, right? They'd say no. I've heard that school junior highs have painted murals of Disney characters, and Disney legal says no, you have to paint over it. Those are our characters. We won't have a Disney mural in your public school. But over in Japan, you can make a porn version of One Piece. You could make a very chibi-like version of Paranoid Agent or whatever. You can have fun with Miyazaki. You can make all sorts of things, and they let you publish. They let you make a profit off those characters because they're never going to be gigantic, but they all feel like even if you're trashing their characters or whatever, it helps keep their IP alive and helps them make money in the end. And I just think it's really fascinating. They have this, I think it's called Comic Kit. It's like it's a big comic book convention, but it's so big they have to have it twice a year, once in the winter and once in the summer. And it's like San Diego Comic-Con, but it's all independent manga and anime. And a lot of it is like, as I said, a porn version of One Piece. You can make these crazy discoveries. And I just think, I don't know whether you guys have talked about it, but I do really like that they don't come after you and sue you.
Yeah, we have touched on it, but we haven't really devoted much attention to it. Maybe we'll do so in a later stream. But for now, we are fully caught up. And so I would like to say thanks to all of the panelists that had to bow out already, and especially to you, Michael, for being here, talking the news with us, and sharing your exciting projects. Everyone check it out. Link for that is pinned in the top of the chat, plus in the description.
I want to thank you guys. This was the first show I've done to blast them up, and I had the best time. I have to say, I've been on a couple other shows, and this is probably just about the most fun I've had. And I also feel very excited because I've discovered some voice characters that I think would be awesome to use. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Yeah, we do have some characters here. And also, everyone, be sure to head on over to Midnight's Edge Espanol, where they will be carrying on the baton. This stream will redirect there. Tom, is there anything else we need to plug?
Later on tonight, I'll be on Physical Media with Fanzine. Other than that, I have no idea.
And also, it's Doomcock's birthday, so everyone drop in and let him know Midnight's Edge congratulates.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
And with that, it is time for some koalas in the rain.
Koalas in the rain, koalas in the rain. No fucks given, koalas